I'm calling the November 14th, 2023 meeting of the Board of Education to order in accordance with Government Code Section 54950, Executor, and Education Code Section 35140, Executor, at 4 p.m. This brings us to our study session. Our study session will entail a few things. Is there anyone that would like to address the board regarding this study session? All right. Since there's no one, we will go ahead and turn it over to our illustrious Mr. Stein.
Thank you very much, President Youngblood, members of the board, Dr. Chernis, Superintendent, and members of Cabinet. Pleasure to be here this afternoon, and hopefully, can you hear me? Do I need to lean in? Lean in? Okay. So thank you all for being here for the study session. This really was generated from some questions that came out, I think a couple of board meetings ago, about going over the different funds that are in the budget that maybe we don't focus on in our standard budget presentations. And so we're going to be going over we'll talk a little bit about all the funds at Placentia-Yorba, Linda, and then we'll also be kind of delving into, we'll be delving into Fund 13, Fund 14, 25, 35, 40, all of which we'll get into a little bit more of detail and talk about the fund balances and the projects we have in queue right now, and also things that are planned. Before I start, I just want to point out that you have an updated presentation printed out in front of you, and it has more detail as to the projects that are currently in queue and what is currently in process right now. So we will make this presentation available to you as soon as this is done. But as with a lot of things related to the projects going on, everything's constantly in motion, and so we wanted to give you a snapshot. And so that's in there right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Sorry, the agenda for I'm not used to the presenter view. The agenda for tonight, we're going to go over all provide an overview of all the funds. We're going to talk about nutrition services, and that's Fund 13. And then we're going to talk about all of our facilities funding, which is 14 and beyond, and talk about the money that's there, what's going on right now, and would like to get the board's input and feedback on direction for where we move forward. Okay. So to start out, just wanted to provide a quick overview of the different funds. What you've got are the fund numbers and then some descriptions there provided. We did provide some acronyms, so GF for general fund, and you'll see those later on in the presentation. What you'll notice is that we have a function listed there. So we have operating funds and reporting funds. The difference between an operating fund and a reporting fund are that the operating funds are exactly what it sounds like. We actually do business through those funds. We are posting expenditures and revenues throughout the year, every day, really. Where a reporting fund is really, we use that during the different reporting cycles, and we report the activity as of that time. So it's a snapshot, and it's required for our financial reports. So it's not really a fund that we use on a daily basis to be posting transactions in and out of. So as you can see, we have Fund 1, which is our general fund. That is called the chief operating fund of a district. That's where most of everything happens, and we'll see exactly that in a graphical form here in a little bit. Fund 8, our student activity, or ASB, which we talked about a few meetings ago, and that is just reporting. We post that so that it's in our financials. We have our special ed pass-through, which again, we're reporting our pass-through contributions. We have Child Development Fund, which is an operating fund. We're not going to be covering that tonight because it covers our preschools, it covers our state funds that we receive for that. But we can cover that at a different meeting if we would like. And then we've got Fund 12, we just talked about that. Fund 13, our Cafeteria Special Revenue Fund, or what we call Nutrition Services Fund. That's where we operate our entire nutrition services program out of. Move on. Fund 14, what is referred to as deferred maintenance. So we use that to record restricted revenues that are transferred from the general fund for related projects and maintenance. Fund 25, which is our capital facilities fund, which really captures two different types of revenues. We have developer fees, which is a restricted fund, And then we have redevelopment revenue that comes in, which is, we have more flexibility with. Fund 35, which is really, which is called two different things: County Service Fund, or I'm sorry, County School Facilities Fund, or referred to State Facilities, School Facilities Funds. This fund actually was created based on programs that no longer exist, right? So it's reimbursements and things that are there. The money that's there is actually a reimbursement that we received from district matching funds that we paid over 10 years ago. So the money that's there is from that, and we're planning on using those this year. Fund 40 is where it's capital outlay fund. That is predominantly used for our payment of our debt, which is our COPs that we have, and the revenue that comes in there is from the Yorba Linda settlement, which pays for the debt. And we'll talk a little bit about that and how we propose to use that. Fund 51, just a reporting fund that's for all the bonds. So we were graced by, yes, please. Yes, please. Well, so, okay, so, well, actually, I'll address it now. So it's operating because we actually do record the revenue every year, well, whenever we receive it throughout the year, and we pay out our COPs through there. So because we're actually transacting through there, it would be operating. But also, Fund 40 really is an operating account, and whatever's left over, and we'll talk about the money that's left over after making those payments, that can be used for active ongoing projects and capital facilities. And that's our plan.
And the leftover money also could be used to pay off our debt quicker, is that correct?
Theoretically, yes.
One that we have that we can't pay off.
Yeah, well, there's one, but there's other ones that we can, is that right?
Depends on the debt,
Okay.
right? So yeah, we'd have to look into whether or not the specific debt we're talking about can be paid with that money.
Okay.
Yeah, good conversation, yeah. Sorry, Fund 51, again, the bond, it has to do with the two bonds that our communities passed, which we're very grateful for. The money's been used, but we have to report out the income coming in from taxes and the expenditures there. And then we've got Fund 67, which is our self-insurance fund. That's where all of our health and benefits come through, our workers' comp, things of that nature. So when we talk about all of the funds, and we look at the ending fund balance of all of the funds collected for the entire district, of all the funds we maintain, we have about $201 million in ending fund balance. Okay. Most of that is restricted. So as you can see in the red box, $135.6 million is restricted funds out of that 201. 66 is unrestricted, and all of that 66 million is in Fund 1, our general fund, our chief operating fund. And you can see that illustrated in the graph. So 70% of the money that's there is in general fund, and all of our unrestricted money is in general fund. When we look at the activity for what we do in a given year, this is all as of unaudited actuals on 6/30, so we're looking backwards in time when we're talking about all this activity. If we look at where we started, all the revenues and expenditures for all those funds last year, you'll see that the vast majority is in Fund 1, our general fund, and that's why it's a focus. And then the graph on the next slide shows you kind of where that, or the total of that. So we're talking 83% of our expenditures come out of our general fund. So despite having the money in the other funds, most of the business transacted at this district occurs in general fund. So that just highlights that. So the focus for this evening, we're going to talk about the funds that are highlighted there, and our goal is to talk about each fund, what its purpose is, some of the restrictions for the monies that are there, and then talk about the projects that we have proposed or that are on either in process or they're proposed of how we use the money that's there.
Gary, real quick.
Yes, please.
For a person that doesn't really know when it comes to these types of ledgers, what happens to the other funds in between 2 and 11? Where do is there like a code in which you guys are using in order to?
So we go by the California School Accounting Manual, the CSAM, and
Okay.
that defines each number and what you can use those funds for. And so there are funds in between all of these, but we don't use them. So some of them are extra funds we can use for specific revenues that come in. We can always open a fund if we have a different revenue source coming in to make sure that we are tracking that and the expenditures separately and reporting those separately.
Okay, so like next year, if we were to do the same thing, there might be some other funds that are showing up that we wouldn't
I really
necessarily.
hope not,
Okay.
right? But that would depend on if there was a different source of revenue coming in, and typically, I think we don't anticipate any additional revenues coming in where we would require a separate fund for that.
Okay.
At this point.
Sean, back when there were categorical funds, there were all kinds of things. And when the LCFF was changed and the new funding formula, it was kind of streamlined a bit. So it's at least more understandable now than it used to be.
That kind of makes sense. I was just curious of where all those other numbers went to. So
So let's say we entered into an agreement with the cities and we were collecting revenue from them and operating some kind of property. That might be a different fund that we would create. But it just would be a completely different source of business and that we would be engaging in. And then we would look at creating a new fund. Yeah. Okay, so let's start with Fund 13, our cafeteria special revenue fund. So this is where our entire nutrition services program is operated out of. Our staff is paid out of this fund. All of our equipment is paid for out of this fund. All of the food, everything we do for nutrition services is out of Fund 13. And so the revenue that comes in is from state and federal money that we receive. And obviously the money that goes out is staffing, majority of it, but also all of the goods and services that we purchase. As you can see, we had about 10.55 million in the ending fund balance as our unaudited actuals at the end of last year. We will go into some of the proposed uses here in a second, but we're proposing majority of that money to be used. And what you'll see when we get to the next slide is a large portion of that has to do with maintaining an operating balance for that fund. And I can attempt to talk to that, but I'm going to ask for Suzanne to talk about that, why it's important that we maintain that 6 month of operating fund balance. It's not on, sorry. Wait, 1 second.
Oh, sorry, is a very large balance. And that is, what does it cost us in 6 months to operate our funding? So we currently receive revenue from our federal and our state government. And since Universal Meals inception, most of our funding now comes from the state. The difference between the state and the federal fund is the federal fund is what they call an entitlement fund. And so we are paid in entitlement dollars from the federal government, whether they shut down or not. It's an entitlement fund. We get our money. Whereas the state is what they call a capped appropriation. And so basically a capped appropriation fund is the year before they say, we think you're going to need about this much money. And so we're going to stick it in this fund. And when that's gone, it's gone. So as downturns in economic and more people may utilize child nutrition services, you might see the need for that fund to expand. It has happened in the past where the state says, sorry, your capped appropriation is dry. We're not sending you any money. We'll pay you, Tuesday for a hamburger today, kind of a thought process. And so we get the money, but it is 3, 5, 7 months out before we see that money. Well, with our operating funds being largely now out of the state capped appropriation, we want to keep as much of that funding available so that we continue to operate whether that fund becomes dry or not. So that's the main reason we want to maintain 6 months is the cap. We can't go over a 6 month operating cost to hold on to that. But with uncertain economic times moving forward, we just don't know how that's going to look. So we'd like to keep that on file. That's why.
Thank you, Suzanne. So as you mentioned,
No,
it's
question. One
Yes,
question
please.
on that. Theoretically, worst case scenario, we have an issue and they cap the fund and we don't have that money. We don't have the 6 month operating funds. We can use that from our general fund account as well, correct?
Technically, yes.
In theory, this is all theoretical.
theory,
not
yes.
suggesting it. Just
Yes,
wanting to make sure.
Our budget policies indicate that we need to maintain a nutrition services program that pays for itself. And so we'd have to have a discussion with the board about dipping into the general fund to supplement the program.
Right.
And I
But-
will say, in 2007, when that actually did happen, not here in this district, I wasn't with this district, but that's when many of the Fund Ones also, when the capped appropriation dries up, the state
1 as
budget tends to do the same. And so food services survived because at that time, we didn't have universal meals, and about 80% of our funding came from the federal government. And so because of that, we didn't need to keep as much, but with universal meals is a California proposition or legislation. And so now it would mean that the legislation could go back and say, we can't afford this, and so we're not able to maintain free meals for everybody, or whatever the thought process is. So usually if the capped appropriation is dry, Fund One is going dry also.
Sure. Well, and there's a lot of other things we'd be talking about at that moment as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
Yes.
just wanted to be clear.
So, thank you, Suzanne, for that additional detail. So
I have a
what-
question.
Yes, please.
Since we're talking about staffing increases, I think that's what we're rolling into. How much total staffing costs are there per month? What is our monthly staffing fees
Yeah, I don't have.
versus food?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I'd say percentage-wise, you're definitely higher in labor than food costs. But again, I'd have to go back to get you a real number. Food is higher than it used to be, but staffing takes the cake on. Because with our staffing, even though we have our shorter hour employees, we have quite a few long hour employees, and so you're also adding in benefits, and you're adding in vacation time, and you're adding all of those additional costs. Many of our employees now are in PERS, and so those are all additional costs. So someone who might, if you think $3.75 hours over a year, they're still gonna cost me a little over $50,000. So it's what our staff does with the food, but the food is actually still, relatively speaking, it's more than it was, but it's not the highest piece of our budget.
And this is why the majority of the expenditures are all one-time expenditures that we're gonna be speaking to.
The ones we're speaking of are one time, correct?
Except the staffing, but yes.
Yes,
So-
well, and that they're
yes.
listed as ongoing. The ones that are ongoing are listed.
Yes, yes.
Staffing is listed as ongoing.
Right. And so, I'd be happy to bring back numbers to give you an actual number for what we spend in nutrition services for a month worth of payroll. We could do that, so I'll bring that back to you.
Okay, cause now I'm confused. We're talking about, that we have $10,500,000+ in our budget, right?
That's in the balance that was
In the
carried over
balance.
into this year, yes.
Right. And so we actually have additional dollars to pay for our staff now, but it's not represented in these dollars, is that correct?
These only are represented as additions, correct?
Right.
With
So-
the rollover from last year.
Right, so we have revenues that come in throughout the year, and those will be in the budget that you'll see in the first interim. You'll see the revenues that we anticipate and the expenditures for that. This is outside of that, if you
Okay,
will.
just
in
making
addition.
sure.
Yes.
Thanks.
Can we stay up here?
Sure, you might as well. You might as well. So, as you can see with the staffing, so we've had, we have a record low number of nutrition services workers, and anybody watching, if you want a job, please come work at Placentia-Yorba. We'd love to have you. But we have added more staff members than what we had in July, so we've reflected that in our estimated costs for the ongoing new staff members. But we've also, in adding breakfast, we've had to increase the number of hours that people work and staff members so that we can accommodate that ongoing requirement that we have as well. So that's factored in there. We are in the process of adding a new buyer specialist, which is gonna help us out a lot, especially with the commodities, food, and our purchasing and maintaining all of our pricing and invoices, so we're happy about that. I'm not sure where we are in that process, but position's been approved, and we'll be bringing it to the board with the rest of that information.
That's really good to hear, because thinking back to where we just would provide lunch for, whichever kids needed it or got it. Now, lunch and breakfast, I mean, the amount that we're
Yeah,
going through is just so much greater than it ever used to be.
it's, Yeah,
So it's,
actually,
I mean,
that's-
it's completely understandable why we would need more staff.
It's also beneficial to our staff because now many of our elementary staff who are working both breakfast and lunch are also receiving benefits. It was a cost obviously here, which is one of the pieces in this cost, that increase, but it is beneficial for getting staff and holding staff when you're able to provide benefits as well.
So another position we're hoping to add as part of the plan is the central kitchen manager. That ties into a lot of the plans that you'll see coming up in a little bit about some of the things we would like to do, centralize some of the functions that we have in nutrition services. We'll touch on that with the KIT funds, right? So, moving on, we have computer equipment that we're replacing. That's in process now. We are working on a point of sale RFP to update our system to be a lot more effective or efficient than what we've got now.
Well, our current system is being phased out, so it will no longer be available. Currently, we're utilizing Meals Plus, so.
And then we've got things like temperature monitoring, and you can read these, but we have kiosks that we want to add for additional serving at different sites, so that you've got 3 listed there, Esperanza, Valencia, and El Dorado. That'll help us get more meals out to kids.
Are these additional kiosks?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, because I already know, like at Valencia, they have, what, 2 or 3?
So we have 2, at Valencia High School, we have 2 permanent kiosks on either side of the library
Right.
entrance. We additionally have a blue roll-up door kiosk, which is another point of sale. These 2 would be in addition to the 3 that are already,
Oh, okay.
already there.
Perfect.
And again, if you know any staff, feel free.
I feel like I'm just a giant advertisement. Would you like to be a bus driver,
Yeah.
special ed, food services,
I- I
nutrition services?
I
We
was
got
very
it all.
excited to have those cards that say join our team, so I have handed out multiple of those, so yes, that's
I feel like
fantastic.
I'm just always advertising.
Absolutely. Please continue. We also, for our nutrition services program, we've been trying to buy vehicles as quickly as possible. A refrigerator truck that I think we've been waiting for
3 years.
3 years now? Because
2.5 years, actually. It was a board approved, actually, and so 2 years. It was board approved in November of '21. So for a new nutrition services truck, which we thought we had, and then we just can't get vehicles. And now I've had another one. I've had a second vehicle that the one we were trying to replace to have that one sort of on the back seat, and that one has now died. So I need 2.
Yeah.
So.
So, the supply chain issues have not been resolved with regard to vehicles and things of that nature. We have a transport van as well. A lot of this has to do with getting food where it needs to be, so the golf cart for Esperanza also has to do with making sure that the food moves across the street. And, so that's the vehicles, and then we also have site equipment that we have replacements, dishwashers, we have installing new dishwashers, combo ovens that'll allow us to serve more, and tilt skillet, which I have no idea what that is. But
Those
it's-
items
yes.
actually will enhance our scratch and homemade items that we are trying to enhance at the school sites. So a tilt skillet actually is like a very large fry pan, I would say. That's the easiest way to, but it is probably twice the size of this here, where we can then take like vegetables and saute vegetables or meat on very large scale, so that our students will be able to taste, herb roasted Brussels sprouts, or we don't have a way to make that right now. Our combi ovens are what they are. They call a combination between a dry cook and a steam cook. So all of this equipment will enhance our scratch cooking. We do not have an open flame anywhere in the district, so to be able to saute anything or do anything like that. So.
Is that on purpose? That we don't have an open flame?
No, it was by design. Food services has changed over time, so.
Yeah, okay. Microwave. Question, just curious, $46,000 golf cart, can I drive it?
I thought the same thing when I heard that. So, the reality is the $46,000, the golf cart itself, it includes the charging station for that golf cart and setting up a secure location for it. But I thought golf cart, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. They're $25,000 to $30,000. We need to have the flat back on it, so it's not like a little 4-person golf cart. We can buy a used one,
Yeah.
like a utility. We need to be able to do that and close it so that the food is secure. And we're running food from Esperanza to
Yeah,
Esperanza
across the
West.
street, right.
Yeah, currently we have people with large carts and,
I've seen them. I
Yeah.
stop at the stoplight as they cross. me.
yeah, and so not
Does
as
that
safe.
include, like, enclosed trailers or anything to make that better? Or just the
When you
vehicle
say an
itself?
enclosed trailer,
Like.
the
instead
back of
car-
it would be enclosed.
Yeah, it'd be
yes.
enclosed, okay.
Yeah,
And electric?
kind of like the golf person who comes around
Yeah.
and says, "Do you want snacks?" Kind of that idea. Yeah.
Well, hang out on Kellogg
Yeah.
at about lunchtime.
They will not be serving the same beverages, however, I will tell you that.
Cool, makes sense. I just sounded like a fun golf cart to drive.
Right? Thought the same thing. I was shocked. And vehicles, the same thing. You know, we board approved vehicles for 120,000. Now they're coming out at 165. So 150. So depending.
I'm sorry, I'm just doing a time check.
Sorry.
No,
No, you're right.
it's great conversation. 25 minutes in, and we have quite a few more funds to get. So I'm just gonna start plowing through a little bit.
I'll sit down
I just
so
wanna,
it's less tempting.
Yeah, no, just kidding. One of the things that I wanted to call out on this is major kitchen equipment for Valencia High School. We're gonna talk about that project here in a little bit, but I wanted to point that out, that nutrition services fund, we can use that to outfit a kitchen. We just can't build a kitchen. We can't build any structures, but we can fill it with all the good stuff that we need, except the plumbing. Talk about that later. Anyway, moving on. So we also we want to do things centrally. So we're talking about creating a packing line and creating a. It's more on the next slide, but to create a more centralized infrastructure so that we can do a lot of the neat things that Suzanne's talking about. And so here you've got the wrapping machines and depositors, which she informed me about. We can talk about that later. But we also, bless you, in Fund 13, but nutrition, we also have KIT funds, which are kitchen infrastructure and training funds, which actually were sitting in Fund 1 as a restricted fund. But we're also using these as well. But we wanted to tell you about some of these projects because you'll probably see them. So we've got serving kiosk at Tuffery and other things that you can see there. But what we're talking about, a yard refrigerator or freezer project and the packing structure, that would allow us to have a larger freezer space up at what we call the PDA, or up at that center where our nutrition services center is, and be able to store the goods there and do packing there and things to help get those fresh foods out to our sites more readily. So
You said it was kitchen infrastructure, what?
and training.
And training.
Yeah. And that's one-time funds that they're spending. Okay, so with that, so we talked a lot about Fund 13. Before I move on, I just want to see if there's any other things we want to talk about. We can circle back, obviously, if we can get through the rest of the funds.
Thank you so much. And I know that this is such a needed service. I'm thrilled that we have the money to be able to expand in what we're doing. And we're prepping for what ultimately might come with more time to eat. So having those kiosks out there will get students through the lines faster so that they do have more time to eat instead of waiting in line. So thank you.
Yep. More meals to more kids is what we're all about. So I'm going to move on to our facilities part. So the rest of this is going to be about facilities projects. What you'll notice is that in our facilities area, we use a lot of braided funding. So we'll see a project that's cut across multiple of these funds because they can be used in that manner, and we're using the funds where they be best suited to address the needs of whatever that project is. And so I'm giving you the heads up up front because you're going to see them across a couple of the next slides. When we talk about facilities funding, as I mentioned before, we've had bond funds. They were fantastic. We've used them all. We have limited funds coming to the district for facilities and maintenance. So we have every year deferred maintenance. We set aside $1 million out of LCFF. That is, you'll see that every year when we take the adopted budget. Sometimes we will do an additional deposit. Anytime we do that, we'll bring that back to the board if we're going to move more money into deferred maintenance. That's based on need, right? Need and available resources. Then we can address those. But the goal that we have in mind across, using all these funds is to make sure we can stretch them out as much as possible and use them for as long as possible to address the needs of all 37 of our beautiful sites. And so we want to make sure that they stay that way. But we also need to plan for the future and plan for the unexpected. It's going to rain tomorrow, I think. Rain can bring floods. It can bring, classrooms that have leaks. We also have winds here, right? We live in a beautiful area with lots of huge trees. Sometimes we have issues that come up with trees where we need to have emergency repairs. So we need to make sure we've got money set aside to address those issues as they come up as well. So,
Let me just speak to that quickly. With regards to transfers of money from the general fund, moving forward, any transfer of money from the general fund will come to the board first for board approval as a transfer. And so the board will have complete authority on what funds to transfer from the general fund to facility fund or whatnot. So we did find in the past few years that that hasn't always happened. There was transfers that just happened at the direction of the business director from one fund to another, and so that can't happen anymore. It'll be a transparent process where it'll come to the board as a recommendation. The board can either approve it, not approve it, suggest a different amount, but all transfers will be done in the appropriate way.
In that scenario, when it's gone from an unrestricted fund to a restricted fund, then those funds become restricted, correct?
correct.
So you mentioned that $1 million is deferred every year. Will that $1 million come every year, or will that be the baseline and anything over $1 million?
That'll come every year. So that's a great example. The board may say, we want to put 3 million in deferred maintenance this year instead of 1. So it won't just be because we've always been doing it, we're going to take $1 million out and put it in deferred maintenance. The board will be have the authority to determine the amount, and I'm sure we'll probably set it at 1 million, but the board can determine whether they want to put more or less aside.
I'm sure $1 million, there's, reasons why that number was selected based on projections and things that we've done in the past, correct?
Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. That's been a past practice. It's always been $1 million moved over. But last year we moved more over. We moved another, I think, $2.5 million over due to the needs that we have at the different sites. And so, and what you'll see is we'll be showing the different projects that are currently in process or that we're working on or that have been approved already. But then, as you saw in the spreadsheet, and I have an updated spreadsheet from our staff members. That you'll see there's a lot more need than there is money with regard to facilities. And so $1 million is very little. So you got Brad all excited when you said 3 million. He was really excited about that. But it's you'll see. So let me just jump right in. So Fund 14, our deferred maintenance, right now, we left the year at, closed the year at $4.2 million in fund balance. What you'll see on the next couple slides is about $2 million worth of projects. But you'll see a lot more need in that spreadsheet as well that eats up the rest of that. So when we talk about projects currently in process, we have a variety of asphalt projects going on. You'll see a lot of roofing and a lot of flooring. Roofing is a huge need at the district across all of our sites. There's at least one roofing project at probably every single site, at least the ones I visited, right? So it's very costly, and so you'll see that come up over and over again. We also have a lot of athletic repairs, so this could include anything going on in the field. It could be scoreboards, it could be all the different things. I kind of lump that all into one for now. We can get into detail later, but so you see what's in process and what's been approved. I want to point out that these projects, when we visit, I'll say we, but our gracious facilities and maintenance staff go out and visit every single site every single year and meet with the staff members and find out what they need. And we look for safety issues. And so obviously safety is number one. We prioritize to make sure that the safety of the students, we address those first, but also we try to address something at every site to make sure that we're keeping those sites updated per the administrator's request at each site. So that contributes to that huge list of projects that we have. But again, want to talk it through and then want your input on what else you'd like to see there as well. So that's Fund 14. I'm just going to come zipping through because I want to make sure we leave some time for questions. But please keep jumping in if needed. Fund 25. So this, we had about $11.7 million in the fund. You'll see that 4.2 of that is developer fees. Developer fees are a restricted fee that comes in. We receive that when somebody's building and they go pull a permit at the city. They pay a fee, that fee gets sent to us. Those fees can only be used for expansion projects or for projects at sites to retain the capacity to serve the students that are gonna be generated by those developments. And you'll see one of the major uses of these funds that we're gonna propose that we wanna talk to the board about in the next slide.
So can I just
Yes, please.
ask a follow-up? So $4.2 million in developer fees, is that 1 year?
No. So, thank you for the question. These
That
fees are
seems
very, they're very tumultuous, right? So it depends on the economy, depends on what space is available in the area and whether or not development is taking place. Last year, we got $2.5 million, which was a banner, we were shocked, okay? Normally, it's roughly about $500,000, but we could get less depending on how the economy is at. And so, last year was a big year, $2.5 million. So, but considering the restrictions we have on that money, it makes it more difficult to use, which is why you see a bigger balance there. But we've worked with attorneys to figure out, okay, what can we use this for? And we'll talk a little bit about that. Redevelopment money comes from our,
One more question about that, the developer fees.
yes, please.
It's restricted to supporting the students, in theory, the influx from the construction in that area. So if it's new construction near Yorba Linda High School, then Yorba Linda High School would be the site, Yorba Linda Middle School,
Right.
potentially
The
Bernard.
challenge we have is that we're an open district, right? So it doesn't mean that the kids at that site will go to Yorba Linda. They could go to Valencia. They could go anywhere they want, right, in this district. And so that's where it kind of puts us in a
Does that give us freedom, or does that give us more?
We
gives
have
us
freedom
more,
to
yeah.
spend it wherever we want in the district,
right.
as
Okay.
long as we follow the developer fee provisions, as you said, right, that
It
it's
supports-
supporting growth and development.
Okay. That's better than I thought, because I
Or
was
to
starting to
retain
think,
the capacity to serve those students, which is what I'll
Good.
talk to. Redevelopment money comes in, we get about $3.5 million a year. That money, it's from the dissolution of all of the redevelopment agencies around the county. We're expected to continue receiving that money at least for the next 10 years plus. It's about $3.5 million. It goes up every year a little bit. So in about 10 years, it'll be 4.7. But that's really the only constant stream of facilities money, like a sizable chunk of money that comes in. That's the only thing we receive, right? The rest is either we're putting money away from the general fund or developer fees, which may or may not come. So, with that, I'm gonna jump right in. So we've got projects already underway. So, one thing you'll notice is obviously a teacher is not a facilities project. But when we have expansion, right, we can journal costs to cover that initial expansion. So that's where that's coming in from. We have dual immersion, different improvements that we've done. We obviously spend a lot of this money on some of the preschool programs and some of the expanded things we have there. We have a planned project at George Key, which very much is in need of flooring. And what you'll see down at the bottom is that retained capacity to serve students project that I was referring to earlier. Every one of the high schools of the district has a kitchen that's able to serve the number of students that are at that school, except Valencia. As the oldest school, the kitchen, I know you've all been there, so you know how small it is. It's not built to serve the number of students that are there, and actually, it's only got one oven. So at a site that big, it only has one oven. So they're doing miracles at Valencia to serve all those kids. And I forgot what the number was. We had a record number.
Serve 1,200 students for lunch alone, just for
Yeah,
lunch.
right. So we have a lot going on there.
That's only half.
And so our goal is to hopefully rebuild the kitchen and change the lunch space so that it can accommodate the students at Valencia High School. And it's, considering the developer fees are so restricted, it would be and we verified that it would be a good use of funds to retain the capacity to serve the students that attend Valencia High School. And so that's what we're proposing. We're hopefully getting board support to move forward with that. No. Well, I can say all I want, but I don't know anything about construction, so it's,
So obviously, it's an early conversation, but we've looked at it with an architect, and I think our initial idea is to demolish the existing building and put a new one in its place, probably twice the square footage. Add some other seating and some shade components around it.
And I see this funding is going over multiple years, so we're looking at a multiple year project.
oh, yes.
Potentially, probably 3 years. No, not necessarily. You know, early stages of getting drawings in, state approval, stuff like that. That could start now. The construction could start in 1.5 years from now.
Right.
So it'd all be a timing factor with construction and how we could do like an interim kitchen. So
Summer
just some thought.
project to build out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that, and we need to, I mean, we have an obligation to serve the students at that school, so we'll have to make other accommodations to make sure that we're still delivering breakfast and lunch and all of that to them. But it's an exciting revitalization for Valencia High School, assuming that, you know, the board's on board with it, so. This is
I think
proposed.
that this is an amazing project. It has been 10+ years in the making to get to this final step, and just the need. I've volunteered in that kitchen just to see how it runs, and it's amazing how they work around each other. And I'm very excited about this project.
Me too. Watching them, it's like watching them dance. They all know when to stand up straight and move, and it's very coordinated. So I think it would be much appreciative, and students will love it. So, but I always worry about the transition.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what is that gonna look like, and making sure our students are taken care of. So I'm excited to see more about this.
Okay.
Why is it taking so long to get this in the works? 10
So
years?
to
Funds.
So,
use of the developer fees, really, we needed clarification on that. Sorry, Dr.
why are we where we are today, and we haven't started yet? Yeah, no, I understand the question. I can't speak to that, but I can speak to the fact that why it would take 3 years is it takes, you know, it'll take 6 to 8 months for designs, another 6 to 12 to get it state approved, then you go out to bid, and so that's why you see the.
100% understand the timeline for the new construction. I'm just curious if we've known this is a problem for so long.
Money.
Money.
Yeah, the answer is money, and honestly, the windfall from the developer fees last year kind of makes this possible. So, and it's, again, totally unanticipated. We didn't know that was going to come in. We need a pot of money to do it, and that's really the problem. Yeah.
Thank you for finding this 43 million. We appreciate that.
Where's the rest? No. Yeah.
I was
So-
also suggest that maybe El Farolito will cut a deal and feed the kids.
What time do we show up for lunch? Oh, interesting. Oh,
Not compliance, like for lunch every day.
So, scooting on. So, that was all developer fees. Now we talk about redevelopment money. Again, it's more flexible. We get this from the RDA dissolution. You'll see the number of projects again. Like I mentioned, you're going to see a lot of asphalt, a lot of roofing, a lot of flooring. And then we have a big project of remodeling restrooms that we need to continue to rotate around the district and remodel restrooms. So we're doing a lot of that. So, and obviously, if you haven't seen the theater improvements with Esperanza, wow, right? So check them out. They're pretty neat. Let's see, going on. So we have other approved ones in the works, and so you'll see a elevator modernization, which is a lot more expensive than I would have thought, but it is very expensive. But a lot of other projects going on, and then you'll see another year, 25, 26 of that Valencia project. Basically, the redevelopment. I'm sorry, not redevelopment. The developer fees would start the project and really carry us forward, and then a third year out, we'd go into the RDA money to complete the project. So that would be the goal. You'll also see more preschools, shade structures, and preschool portables that are being put in. So that's part of our initiative there. And keeps going on from there. And let me keep. So, moving on to Fund 35 real quick. So this is again that fund that really existed. We really don't use it for anything, and I think it's time to close it out. So what we have is the exact amount of money that's in there. We have plans for how to spend that down, and then we would take a resolution to the board to close out this fund because it's not useful any longer. What we've got going on right now, which are actually all completed, the first 3 projects. So the painting of Valencia High School, which looks fantastic. We had the environmental impact report that we talked about, and then the Walden enclosure for Travis Ranch, which was very much needed there. And then what we're proposing to do with the rest of it is help fund the El Dorado Lights with the rest of that money there, and it would close out that fund. Fund 40. So this one will be actually a little quicker. So we have about $13.4 million in there. As mentioned earlier, we use this predominantly to pay off our debt, our COPs that we took on, and we record all of our Yorba Linda settlement money, which then comes in and makes the payments for our debt. What that leaves us every year is about $850,000 to $900,000 extra. That's why you see the balance that got carried over of $13 million is because it's been building up on purpose. And here's why. Because $10.3 million of that is the last payment. So our Yorba Linda settlements end in 2032-33, but we have one more payment due for our debt in 2033-34. And so basically our hope would be to reserve that money, put it aside to make that last payment, and then we can start using some of the extra money in there. So there's about $3 million on top of that that's in that Fund 40 that we could tap into. And then we've got 500,000 listed here, but there's more in that project spreadsheet that you can take a look at. It also gives us a bit of a flexibility because with $10 million set aside, if God forbid something happens, we have money that we can tap into because we could then divert that extra $800,000, $900,000 to backfill whatever we needed to do if something were to happen, right? So if we have an emergency at a site and we need to pull money, we have that money set aside for that, that we could use and then backfill with the leftover money on top of the Placentia.
By 2033, we would have to pay it back.
We'd have to pay it back, yes.
So that's
So
nice to have that
you
flexibility.
have a bit of time there. That's our proposal for that one. So I was going to stop every time to see if we have questions, but we've been stopping along the way. But that's the end of what I had to present. I do have an updated spreadsheet here for you, so we'll pass that out. But just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to go over these funds, and thank you, our staff member, for being here.
Could I just add
Good,
one
please.
thing, and it's
Yes,
like
please.
probably a very, very small expense that we should think about is
Sure.
all of our elementary schools are complaining about the lack of playground balls, or that they're very short. And I think maybe like in the midst of all this construction and all this, like these big things we're doing, I think like a little gesture like that to make sure that they have enough playground balls, because apparently they're fighting like mad over balls, and there's lack of balls and all kinds of stuff. So
Okay.
if we can maybe get that to our sites, I think that would be appreciated.
Awesome. Yep, I got it down. So along that, we'd love to hear your input. And so questions, input, anything you'd like, any feedback you'd have.
I appreciate knowing that the team goes out to the sites every year and really does a full evaluation of what they need and what they're asking for. So other than what they're telling you all, I don't have anything really to add. I'm just thrilled about the kitchen, like beyond belief. So that's all. Thank you. Thank you so much for all the hard work and all of the dedication. And I know how it's massive to build a project that's multi-year, multi-funds, all of this. So this is really comprehensive, and I can't wait to see how it turns out. Thanks.
And I really like the 5-year kind of like, we have all these projects and here's when we're looking at, getting those things fixed. So as a trustee, it's really helpful when someone complains about something and we're like, look, it's on the schedule. It's noted, we're trying to see those needs are filled, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. So maybe another windfall this year.
We hope. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for all your work.
Okay, if there's no more questions for Mr. Stein, thank you
I
again.
just have to say thank you to my team.
Your
because
team, yes.
I got the joy of just putting it all together in a presentation. They do all the work, all the hard work every day. I'm proud to have them here. So thank you very much.
Excellent, thank you. Anything good? Okay, well, then we will go ahead and adjourn our study session. Thank you all for coming. Have a good night. Okay, folks, I'm going to go ahead and reconvene into regular session at 18:23. The report out of closed session was the board took action to approve the special education settlement agreement for the student identification number of 1743 for 5,500. The motion was brought forward by Ms. Blades, seconded by Trustee Buck, and it carried 5-0. And the board had no other portions to the report. Thank you. All right, excellent. Okay, so before our Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to ask Mayor Hernandez to come on up and lead us in a little prayer.
I'm usually so loud I don't know when I'm not on, so again, thank you for this opportunity. Let's assume an attitude of gratitude. Heavenly Father, we gather here today as a community united in wanting the best for our children, seeking your guidance and blessings as we convene this meeting today. We acknowledge the importance of our mission, which is to ensure the education and well-being of our children, the future of our community and our world. As we come together, let us first recognize the value of finding common ground. Grant us the wisdom to see beyond our differences and to focus on what unites us, the shared commitment to the betterment of our children's lives. Help us to remember that our common purpose is to provide the best possible education for all students entrusted to our care. May our hearts and minds be open to the perspectives of others, and may we cultivate a spirit of open-mindedness. In our discussions and decisions, let us seek to understand and respect differing viewpoints, for it is through this diversity of thought that we can arrive at well-rounded, thoughtful solutions. Grant us the strength to work together respectfully, embracing the power of collaboration and cooperation. Help us to recognize that every member of our community has a voice that deserves to be heard, for in their unique perspectives lie the seeds of innovation and progress. May we foster an environment where all voices are not only heard, but genuinely valued. Guide our actions and decisions so that we may reflect the highest principles of compassion, integrity, and empathy. Help us to lead by example in showing our children the importance of respectful dialogue, cooperation, and unity. And finally, we humbly ask for your support and guidance. May this meeting be a testament to our shared dedication to the children of our district, a testament to the power of working together, finding common ground, and being open-minded. May our actions today resonate throughout the lives of our students, fostering a community of love, respect, and continuous learning. In your name, we gather and seek your blessings. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. Okay, that brings us to our Pledge of Allegiance. If Trustee Buck would lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Sure, please stand. Join me in the pledge. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, excellent. Okay, let the record show that all of our board members are present, including our student board member. Welcome. At this point, I think we're going to go into our agenda. I'm going to ask Dr. Chernis to take this portion here?
Yes, President Youngblood, members of the board. I ask that consent calendar item 20.12, which includes the addition of a new middle school esports elective course approved by the Curriculum Council, be pulled and the agenda amended. Staff found a contract covering the funding for this item had already been approved May 9th, 2023. Given that the contract was previously approved, there's no need for this item on tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Okay, so with that said, I'll need a motion for the amended agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda for November 14th, 2023.
I'll second.
Are there any comments? Nope. All right. So all of those in favor?
Aye.
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 So all motion carried, including an aye from our student board member. Okay, this brings us to the public comment announcement. Public comment cards are available in the foyer. Cards must be completed and turned in prior to the designated time for public comment. There is a maximum of 3 minutes per person. If translation is needed, an additional 3 minutes will be given. Please let us know. If we are ahead of time, we can ensure that we're prepared. We also have a civility policy. Education Code 220 prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability, gender identity, gender expression, nationality, race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, or any characteristics that are contained in the definition of hate crimes set forth by Section 422.55 of the Penal Code, including immigration status. Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting on October 10th, 2023, as presented.
Second.
All right. Are there any comments regarding those minutes? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 5 plus our student board member. Thank you. At this point, we'll look at recognitions. I'll turn it over to Dr. Chernis.
Good evening, President Youngblood, Board of Education, Executive Cabinet members. This evening allows us to present the You Are the Advantage Award to one of our outstanding staff members at Rio Vista Elementary School, Valerie Hibbert. Valerie, will you please join me up at the lectern? All right. So, the You Are the Advantage Award recognizes community members, organizations, and employees demonstrating the district's 4 core values of excellence: collaboration, integrity, and innovation. Those who have the honor of knowing or working with Valerie recognize these very traits in her day-to-day work as a noon duty supervisor. She is receiving the You Are Advantage Award for channeling all of the aforementioned values as she recently performed a remarkable heroic act. She saved a young student from choking at her school site, Rio Vista Elementary School. Before I share more, please allow me to provide a little background about Valerie. Valerie's journey as a noon duty supervisor at Rio Vista began in 2002, the year her son Silas entered the doors as a bright-eyed first grader.
That was Elijah. That was my grandson.
Oh, Elijah.
Silas came a couple years later.
Okay.
It's okay, it's okay. It's all the-
This would mark the beginning of an incredible journey that has spanned 2 whole decades. But Valerie's connection to Rio Vista didn't stop at her employment. It extended through her entire family. All of her grandchildren have found their home as Rio Vista leopards. At one point, 6 members of Valerie's family were simultaneously part of the Rio Vista family. Valerie's home and heart truly embraced Rio Vista, and her legacy is woven into the school's rich fabric. Valerie is not just remarkable for her deep Rio Vista roots, but also for the incredible qualities that make her a beloved noon duty supervisor. and I've seen it firsthand. Patience is her middle name. Kindness flows from her like gentle river. Flexibility is her superpower, and she wields it with grace. Her peers look up to her as a role model, a tremendous teammate who leads by example. She diligently assists school staff with the supervision of students while on campus, supporting their safety, well-being, group interactions, and exercise. And that diligence allowed Valerie to notice one of our kindergartners, students, turning blue and not breathing during lunchtime. She acted swiftly and performed the Heimlich maneuver to successfully remove a corn dog blocking the child's airway. It's always corn dog day.
We ought
Her-
to ban those.
Yes, we should talk to food service about that. Her prompt response may have potentially saved the student's life. And had Valerie been distracted from her duties, the situation could have taken a turn for the worse. So her dedication to her supervision at Rio Vista is a true testament to her love for our students. You may have heard the following saying, the best way to help yourself is to help others. Valerie took this quote and put it into action through her selfless efforts to help a young student in distress. Our entire school community, including her principal, Brandon Frank, who's here, are proud to call her a PYLUSD employee and a colleague. So with that being said, on behalf of the Board of Education, it's our honor to present Noon Duty Supervisor, Ms. Valerie Hibbert, with the You Are the Advantage Award. Thank you for your dedication to our students and for going above and beyond at Rio Vista every day. Congratulations.
Okay, folks, we'll go ahead and continue on. This brings us to our student board report. If I could pass it to Aiden.
Good evening, President Youngblood, trustees, Superintendent Dr. Chernus, and executive cabinet members. I am excited to be here tonight to share recent happenings from our comprehensive high schools and alternative campuses. From Buena Vista, in honor of Veterans Day, students at Buena Vista took a walking field trip to Veterans Park in Yorba Linda. Students explored the Veterans Memorial at the park and learned about the contributions the veterans in our community have made to our country. They discussed the meaning of the words honor, respect, duty, loyalty, and courage inscribed around the memorial. In honor of Veterans Day, students placed flags in front of our school around a Thank You Veteran sign. At El Camino Real High School, as a follow-up to Red Ribbon Week, El Camino recently celebrated a week of wellness dedicated to promoting the mental and physical health of students. To kick off the week, leadership students chalked the walkways of the campus with motivational sayings. Students who have gone above and beyond on campus were recognized for earning a significant amount of credits, attending school regularly, and helping staff and peers The Raptors also participated in fun dress-up days to promote wellness, including Meditation Monday and Feel Good Friday. On November 1st, El Camino students heard from the Placentia Police Department about the dangers of fentanyl. After the assembly, the student body came together to enjoy a barbecue and games on campus. El Dorado High School hosted their 11th annual Veterans Day ceremony on November 9th. The ceremony is held during the school day so students and staff can honor the fallen, the families, and the veterans who are present together. This year, Dr. Jurnis joined the ceremony and spoke on stage, welcoming everyone who attended. Other Golden Hawks who spoke were Principal Joey Davis, ASB President Emma Kim, Senior Class Vice President Lucas Rea, and Senior Blake Chalio. Performing taps during the veteran roll call was sophomore Jack Lewis. The ceremony is live streamed each year by the EDHS Hawk Talk students and seen internationally on YouTube. El Dorado is grateful to its ASB program for its efforts to host such an impactful and important event each year. Esperanza girls flag football team won the championship at the Los Angeles Chargers flag football tournament. They finished their season 25-0, and their coach Jimmy Valverde has been nominated for Coach of the Year by the Chargers. EHS is hosting a school-wide food drive for Thanksgiving to benefit families in need in Anaheim. Students are collecting boxed and canned foods leading up to the holiday. Lastly, the Esperanza Theater is almost complete with the state-of-the-art lights, sound, and technology. The Aztecs are looking forward to showing off what the space can do for the years to come. George Key students are looking forward to the annual Sunrise Rotary Holiday Party. The event will be held on December 15th, 2023 at the Professional Development Academy. Students will have a visit from Santa, and each will receive a gift. George Key is very appreciative of its ongoing partnership with the Rotarians. The Venture Academy Choir is working diligently to prepare for their holiday concert. The choir program will be presented to parents and George Key students on Thursday, December 21st at 12:45 p.m. in the Golden Elementary School Multipurpose Room. They will also perform for our district personnel at the annual holiday luncheon. The choir is under the direction of Miss Carmen Contreras. Ventura students are looking forward to sharing music that puts everyone in the holiday spirit. Next is Parkview School. Parkview secondary students enjoyed their first teen event of the year. Students played board games, had pizza, and enjoyed the company of their peers. Principal Dominique Paucho hosted parents for Parkview's second curriculum, Connections in Servants, which focused on math mindset, math supporters, and resources. Parents appreciated learning about the elements of math success along with new resources and strategies. Next is Valencia High School. Valencia's cross-country program earned the title of Empire League champions, while water polo and tennis made it to the second round of CIF playoffs. Way to go, Tigers. On November 15th, VHS will host its annual Future Ready Day. 588 seniors will apply to colleges in the UC and CSU system, as well as Ivy League schools and more. During this time, 9th, 10th, and 11th graders will hear from career speakers across a wide variety of professional paths, including a software engineer, geologist, aesthetician, marriage and family therapist, forestry technician, and a chief executive officer at a private company. The school looks forward to spotlighting careers that emphasize diverse passions and interests. Next is Yorba Linda High School. The Mustang Band and Guard recently placed first in their division at the Los Altos Field Show and are continuing their season strong with more performances. The school's Fall Rally Front opened on November 10th and will have 4 more performances on November 16th, 17th, and 18th. More information is available at ylhs.org. Yorba Linda's fall sports teams had astounding seasons. Football and girls cross-country teams were crowned league champions. And football, cross-country, and women's tennis are still competing in CIF playoffs. And that is all.
Wow, that's great. Aiden, what has been your most memorable academic experience in the district, and why?
I think my most memorable academic experience in this district has been taking AP Language and Composition and AP US History last year, just because of the fundamentally important skills I feel like I learned, both with writing and analysis, because of both those courses. And thankfully, my Ms. Ferris, my AP Lang teacher, and Mrs. Garcia, my AP US History teacher, I feel like set the foundation for all their students to just be completely prepared for senior year and just onto college with everything related to writing and literary analysis.
That's great. Okay, that brings us to our public comment portion. So the public comment is an opportunity for the public to provide input to the Board of Education. During public comment, board members do not dialogue with the speakers or make comments regarding the information shared. We have a total of 6 people wishing to speak tonight. So each person will be given 3 minutes. And I'll go ahead and call up our first, let's go with our first 4. How's that? Ray Lejano, Pam, Andy Falco, and Miss Linda Cohn. Go ahead and repeat your name, sir.
Yeah, my name is Ray Lejano. Good?
Yeah.
All right, great. Good evening, members of the board. Forgive me for speaking to you again tonight. There's only so much that I could say last month in 90 seconds when I spoke to you about how all of our freshmen and seniors will suffer from considerable and undeniable learning loss if this unbalanced semester calendar is implemented. Tonight, I'd like to tell you about how this proposed unbalanced semester calendar will impact all of our middle and high school students, about 12,000 students. Could you please think back to when you started a new position or a new job? Like this one, perhaps. How long did it take you to feel comfortable, to feel confident, to really feel like you were excelling? It took a while, right? It took a while because you're human beings. And we need time to adjust, to acclimate, to learn, and grow to the new surroundings and the new challenges. Whenever a new school year starts, our high schoolers are starting 6 new jobs. Our middle schoolers are starting 7 new jobs. They have new teachers, classmates, routines, subjects to learn, and the list goes on. This is why the typical first semester trajectory for our students has been struggle in September and October, adjust in November, get comfortable, and take significant gains in December and January. I have seen this student trajectory for 20 years in my career. Ask any teacher, and they will tell you about how many students pull off the higher grade in that last month of January. I know that to public officials, public opinion is important. I am not here to beg you to start the school calendar earlier. I know that's a non-starter because families have already planned out their vacations. But at this point, what is best for our middle and high schoolers is to return to the balanced semester schedule that our school district has this year and every year in my career, my 20 years in this district. Same start date, end the first semester in January, nothing new. Who would complain about us returning to the schedule that we've always used? It won't impact their vacations. It won't impact their plans at all. Compare that to the blowback that you might have to hear from families of students that received grades that they didn't like, and they were convinced that if our district would not have taken away 1 month from their first semester, they would have gotten that A, B, or C, or not failed that class. What you're going to hear about in 20 seconds is about solutions to a problem that doesn't have to exist. I urge you, please do not go forward with this unbalanced semester schedule. Our students need you to stand up for them. Thank you.
Pam?
Thank you. Back in May of this year, I filed a formal complaint, and I would like a response. When I've emailed about why I have not received a formal response from you all, it's because they said the people that were subject of the complaint are no longer employees of the district, but my issue hasn't gone away. I did not file that formal complaint
just because of those people. I filed it because I still have issues with homeschooled credits. I need someone competent within the school district to help me get my kid to the finish line. Toward that end, in making up credits, he took a whole year of math over the summer. It was a class through an entity that was provided to me by the counselor at Yorba Linda High School. It's approved by your district. It's accredited and CAA approved. But no one told us that this class wouldn't prepare my son for pre-calculus honors. On February 28th, I got from the math department at Yorba Linda High School the covered topics. And here it is. So he told me exactly what, if my kid took that class at Yorba Linda High School or within the district, what are the covered topics of the faster paced Algebra 2 trig class or the college prep Algebra 2 class, okay? The class that you all said to me was approved by your district that he could take over the summer covered all of these topics. So then he starts pre-calculus honors, and then he hears from that teacher, oh, any of you who took a math class over the summer, you're probably going to struggle. My kid's telling you about that. I don't know what that was all about. I thought maybe it was just another bias that we're experiencing about him being homeschooled in the past. So it turns out that the class that you all approved actually doesn't cover all of the topics. So here I am thinking, okay, I'm dealing with another group of time wasters and people who are incompetent and don't know their own job. So he switches from honors to the college prep class, and he is doing better. But now the teacher won't give him the grade bump that he earned for having been in a pre-calculus honors class, which other departments within the high school do give the grade bump for kids who transfer from an honors or an AP class to a college prep class. So there seems to be a lot of inconsistency and a lack of transparency. And since it's on the agenda, I suggest that you get rid of the health and careers class as a graduation requirement. You already exempt many students from that requirement. I don't think it's a very good use of time. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening. Over the last several years, parents have been proven correct about every important issue we have fought up against. These include masking, vaccine mandates, CRT, and pornography in our schools. We've even presented the board with proof that teachers, librarians, and principals were actively encouraging sexualization of our children in all of the district schools. We have photographic proof that Principal Joey Davis allows boys to use girls' bathrooms, drag queen shows at homecoming, and he is currently allowing a culture of debauchery at El Dorado High School. None of these things that we bring to you, did we make them up, nor were they conspiracy theories. Recently, we were told that no teacher or staff member is keeping critical information regarding a child from parents. Allow me to read a handwritten note from a letter a parent found in the child's bedroom. This letter was given to the child by a Kramer Middle School PE teacher by the name of Carla Jones. The letter says, "Thank you for sharing your journey with me. I am a trustworthy adult. I would never share this information with anyone. It is okay to wear your chest binders as much as you feel comfortable. Who are you talking to for support? There are quite a few students at Kramer that are on the same journey. Have you gone to Mr. Castro's Safe Space for Pride? I highly recommend it. Here's the worst part. I am terrified by your statement. It's getting harder and harder," this is in quotes from the student, "it is getting harder and harder to have motivation to keep on living," the child told her. "You are important and loved, even if you don't feel it right now. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. Sincerely, Mrs. Jones." And just to make sure you all know, the parent of this child was not notified that this student had suicidal ideations. Mrs. Carla Jones kept this a secret, and presumably so did the ASB director, Ricky Castro. Mr. Chernus, Mrs. Blades, Mr. Youngblood, and Mr. Frazier, we all appreciate the hard work you're doing to fix the past board members and superintendents that have done everything they have done to destroy our children's future here at PYLUSD. but we beg you to please address the cancerous culture of hiding mental health emergencies from parents and the sexualization of our children. It must be eradicated in all its forms as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Good evening, all. During the October 10th discussion of the parent notification policy, one of the board members asked this question. If a student changes pronouns, is that a clear and present danger? I believe it is. And if you know anything about the impact of social transitioning on vulnerable children, I think you will agree. First, changing pronouns or names is not an insignificant act. Motives may vary, but a child or teen is basically declaring the following: I reject the body that I inhabit, and I am taking on a completely new identity. I don't want my parents to know because they may not unquestionably affirm my decision. This is not an inconsequential declaration. In fact, it may be the beginning, and often is the beginning, of a life-altering and irreversible journey. The teacher in the letter that Andy just read gave unconditional affirmation to the child as she encouraged that child to join, quote, quite a few students at Kramer that are on that same journey. This ought to raise some very serious questions. And yet a typical reaction to someone like me asking these questions is this: you hate transgender kids. Usually followed by, do not out kids to parents who might abuse them. To claim that parents are likely to abuse their children is outrageous. To encourage children to deceive their parents is equally outrageous and even dangerous. Is this teacher ready to rescue this child on a weekend when the psychological impact of living a lie becomes unbearable? We have to ask questions. Let's begin with, why has a once very rare condition of gender dysphoria skyrocketed into a common occurrence in some schools? Not all, but some. Why are billions of dollars being poured into, quote, gender-affirming care, end quote, led by CTA policy, a cooperative legislature, and CTA's biggest ally, Planned Parenthood? Why are other issues such as autism, ADHD, depression that affect 70% of these kids ignored? Why are detransitioners ignored and even vilified? Why should we be committed to affirm even young children when 70 to 90% of gender questioning non-affirmed children return to their biological sex?
Thank you, Ms. Cohn.
Changing pronouns are a clear and present danger. I've talked to parents. We need to listen to them.
Thank you, ma'am. Our last two speakers, Judy Desjardins and Miss Shani Murray.
Good evening. I'm going to be talking on the research that has been provided by the Institute for Research and Evaluation on this transgender issue. And this was updated August 2023. Review of the transgender research by the Institute of Research and Evaluation. Research shows childhood gender dysphoria usually dissipates on its own by young adulthood if transition is not encouraged. This avoids the harmful effects of cross-sex medical interventions. Summary of evidence. There is a strong evidence showing that a majority of children between 70 and 90% who experience gender dysphoria tend to resolve their gender identity confusion and accept the biological sex by the time they reach adulthood. That is, if they are not subject to social, transition, or cross-sex medical intervention. A review of 10 studies of childhood gender dysphoria showed an average of 85% identifying as their biological sex at young adulthood. Several other studies have cited in this document. The dramatic rise in gender dysphoria in the past decade is likely influenced by non-biological factors. Scientific evidence indicates that the cause of gender dysphoria are complex social, cultural, and psychological factors appear capable of influencing a young person towards transgender identity. Recent unprecedented increases in gender identity worldwide and a reversal in the male-to-male ratio suggests the influence of non-biological factors. Young people appear susceptible to social, educational, and cultural influences. In the United States, the percent of Generation Z adults born between 1997 and 2002 who identify as transgender has increased by 800% over Generation X, born 1965 to 1980. Now, 1.4% of the U.S. teens, about 300,000 youths, say they are transgender. Regarding the recent explosion increases in females, research shows females are more influenced by social factors. Thank you. And I have the documentation here.
Hi, Shani Murray. A few comments from last meeting. I just wanted to say thank you for approving the lights at El Dorado. We're currently practicing for the semifinals with rented lights, so I appreciate it. Number two, I do see potential for the proposed district-run charter school. I hope you work closely with local families to ensure their needs are met and work closely with PYL teachers to ensure they have the support and training needed to make this a success. Three, I have serious concerns about the parental notification policy. It's not about protecting students. Todd Frazier said as much last meeting. It's about catering to anti-LGBTQ extremists and giving them a not so thinly veiled outing policy, which I think is becoming clearer. Finally, thank you for approving my book donation of A Day with No Words. Dr. Chernis said one reason he discontinued the Diversity and Inclusion District Calendar was because someone felt left out when we didn't celebrate Autism Awareness Month. I hope this book, told from the perspective of a nonverbal child with autism, helps build awareness and understanding, and I hope you add it to the repository of district resources for diversity and inclusion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone that spoke. This brings us to our presentations. Our first one is 15.1, the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant and Target Intervention. I'll turn this over to Dr. Young.
Thank you. Good evening, President Youngblood, members of the board, Dr. Chernis, and Executive Cabinet. It's my pleasure to present to you this evening our plan for spending of the state funds we've received through Assembly Bill 182, also known as a Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant. This block grant is intended to provide funding for learning recovery initiatives to support academic learning recovery and staff and pupil social and emotional well-being. These funds are available to be spent through the 2027 through 28 school year. The California Department of Education is not approving or denying individual requests for allowable expenditures, and no plan or approval is required for these funds. We are pleased to report that our district has been allocated nearly $20.3 million in one-time funds to be spent over the next 5 years towards this cause. These funds can be spent on 5 overarching purposes. First, to increase the number of instructional days or minutes provided to the school year, inclusive of class size reduction. Secondly, to accelerate progress to close learning gaps through the implementation, expansion, or enhancement of learning supports. Thirdly, to integrate pupil supports to address other barriers to learning and staff supports and training. Fourthly, to provide access to instruction for credit-deficient pupils. And fifthly, to provide additional academic services for pupils. As you can see on the screen, we've provided an overview of the breakdown of the expenditures by category for each year. The bulk of the funding will be dedicated toward accelerating progress to close learning gaps through the implementation, expansion, or enhancement of learning supports as represented by B sub I and B sub 2. In a moment, I'm going to provide more details of our planned expenditures by each allowable use category. Within the first allowable use category, we'll be spending roughly $1.9 million towards class size reduction in Algebra 1A and 1B, as well as eliminating our 5th and 6th grade elementary combination classes. This represents roughly 9% of our total allocation. Within the second allowable use category, we'll be spending roughly $12 million towards personnel, programs, services, and professional development that support the implementation, expansion, or enhancement of learning supports. And this represents roughly 60% of our total allocation. Examples include intervention teachers and our intervention program, our AVID program, Advancement via Individual Determination, software, programs, materials, and supplies that are designed to provide targeted and differentiated instruction to students, as well as professional development for our teachers and administrators. Within the third allowable use category, we'll be spending roughly $3.9 million toward pupil supports that address other barriers to learning. This represents nearly 20% of our total allocation. Examples include parenting classes, With Hope suicide prevention, student study team and 504 support, outreach concern, which provides counselors at our elementary schools, professional development for our counselors, foster youth mentors, and our Gear Up programs at our middle and high schools. Within the fourth allowable use category, we'll be spending nearly $300,000 toward access to instruction for our credit-deficient students. This represents nearly 1.5% of the total allocation, and examples include the El Camino Credit Recovery Summer School, High School Grade Improvement Summer School, as well as High School Night School program. And finally, within the fifth allowable use category, we'll be spending roughly $1.9 million towards academic services for students, which represents roughly 9% of the total allocation. Examples include English language proficiency assessment support, Family Resource Center assessment support, performance task support, and additional software and services such as Turnitin and EduClimber. And now I'd like to take the opportunity to provide more details about the targeted intervention that we provide our students who are not meeting grade level standards both during the school and outside of the school day. At the elementary level, during the day interventions include small group instruction provided by the teacher, where tiered interventions and differentiated instruction are provided to students. Targeted intervention is also delivered by other staff at the elementary schools, inclusive of academic support teachers, hourly teachers, and Title I instructional coaches. At the secondary level, during the day interventions are delivered through specific courses, such as middle school math labs, designated ELD, AVID, study skills, tutorial or homeroom periods at our middle schools, math intervention teachers at our 3 lowest performing math middle schools, and freshman success, house, and opportunity programs offered at Valencia High School. But through the use of the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant funds, we are proud to be able to offer a new targeted intervention program that provides additional support to students in the area of mathematics, both before, during, and after school. You'll recall that this is our priority area, as a district based on our summative CAST results from the spring of 2023 shared in our superintendent's state of the district. At the elementary level, all of our schools are offering targeted intervention through small group instruction after school to students in grades 1st through 6th. These small groups are focusing on foundational math skills through teacher-created materials, our adopted curriculum, and software services such as Reflex Math, Frax Math, and iReady. Additionally, in partnership with our expanded learning department, all students in our after-school childcare programs are receiving academic intervention beginning this year 3 times a week through the use of those aforementioned programs. Do you want to jump in? Okay. As you, okay.
I will jump in here. I'm so proud of the snapshot of what we're doing here. This slide particularly reflects over 1,000 students getting free after school support in mathematics this year. Last year in this district, the number was 0. This year it's over 1,000. We're using our one-time money from the state of California directly to help kids. And we're doing it by paying teachers to stay after school and help kids learn. And so they've done a great job. They've broken into their I believe it's 4 or 6 week sessions. The kids stay after, the teachers help them. And just the reports from kids, from teachers, from parents has been incredible. So this took a lot of work to get to this point. This is going to happen all year. And so I'm just really thankful for the team, Olivia and Will and George and all the principals for mobilizing, because everybody mobilized to make this happen. And it's extraordinary the number of kids that are getting free support. So I just want to highlight
Could I ask a follow-up question? So you mentioned they're going in for a certain number of weeks. Is this number going to grow above 1,000?
Yes, so this is just for the first cycle alone, which just wrapped up the past week. So over 1,000 students were invited and participated, and so additional students, some will continue on if they have not exited based off of pre and post tests and progress that they've made, but additional students will be invited in. And now that this first cycle has been completed, the buzz is out there amongst the teachers as well, who are really enjoying this opportunity to provide small group instruction to kids after school. So we have far more teachers who are interested in jumping onto these subsequent cycles.
That's great. For 2 months, we've got 1,000 students that have been
Yes.
through, so that's fantastic. And then
Just
you just
at the elementary alone.
multiply that out for the rest of the year, and that'll be great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I had a question. Is there a way to do like a social media blast or maybe more letters home to parents? Because I was just somewhere a couple days ago, and the parent said that they're catching up, but and I said, well, why aren't you using the intervention? And she said, what's that? And so I said, well, it's at your school, and so maybe just another blast so people are aware of it so they can utilize this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So at the elementary level, students were targeted and invited to participate based off of their CASP scores, their iReady scores, as well as teacher recommendation. So at the elementary, it was very targeted, but at the middle and high school, it is open to all students who need any type of math support with their coursework in addition to targeted intervention. So we will definitely work with our schools to continue to blast that out to our families. Okay. So as you can see, there's some photos on the screen as well that just show the amazing things that are happening after school, and we're really proud to say that students and teachers and parents are all very thrilled with this program. At the middle school level, all schools are offering small group instruction and homework assistance, both before and after school to students. And the small groups are focused on foundational math skills, as well as support with their current math coursework through teacher-created materials, our adopted curriculum, Math 180, as well as the Smarter Balance Focus interim assessment blocks and tools for teachers. There's a sample middle school intervention and tutoring schedule on our screen, and you can see that we have a really robust offering throughout the day of both math homework help and targeted math intervention. As mentioned, students were selected based off of their Smarter Balance scores, but as well as their composite math scores at the middle school level. Yes, for middle school, before school was a very popular option because middle school starts so late. So they're offering both before school and after school to really provide a great resource to families trying to see when they'll attend. And we're providing snacks. So everything possible to get the secondary kids in. At the high school level, all schools are offering small group instruction and homework assistance before school, during lunch, or after school for all students. And all students were invited to receive math support in their current coursework. But additionally, we targeted our students enrolled in Algebra 1A and 1B for the foundational math skill development. And approximately 115 students took advantage of that opportunity just in that first cycle alone. So we have 4 more cycles to go. We've received overwhelming positive feedback on the targeted intervention program from students, parents, and teachers. Parents have shared that their students love the new Reflex math program where their students are building fact fluency in a gamification way, and that the after-school program, while initially a little bit hesitant, not knowing that their child was identified for intervention, have found it to be so helpful in just addressing the deficits that their children had that they continue to build off of each year.
So Reflex Math is the new curriculum that we've supplemented in our elementary schools. It's foundational math skills, math facts. So kids get their foundational math. So by the time they get to algebra and geometry, they have this foundation. That what we were seeing is there's a gap. There's a foundational mathematics gap that kids, in many cases, in language-based math, that Common Core really is, doesn't hammer home the foundational math that our kids need. So we're supplementing the math curriculum with this Reflex Math. And this also started this year, and in going to the sites, all the teachers are really implementing it with fidelity. The kids like it, and the goal is for our kids to just have their math facts down by the time they get into the higher levels of mathematics.
And for your consideration this evening, we are bringing forward a contract for iExcel, which will be the middle school option for building our students' foundational math skills. And so that's something that we're really looking forward to, so that we can Reflex ends at the elementary school level. And so we thank you for your consideration of that tonight as well. So at this time, I'd like to thank you for your support of our new targeted intervention program and open the floor to any additional questions that you may have.
I love it. Sorry, Marilyn. I love it. Thank you so much for doing this. This is exactly what we've needed for years. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the data. And you just said you finished your first 9 weeks. Are we going to be able to see like the data in a board update coming up as soon as it's all kind of compiled, see how our students have improved?
Sure, we can
Especially
definitely-
that 1,000 students and the 115 students and I don't know how many middle schoolers, but
Yes, at the elementary level, we'll definitely be able to provide you that data and just number of facts that they've been able to accomplish and master during that time, as well as pre and post tests as far as specific skills that students were targeting. At the middle and the high school levels, it was a little bit
harder.
looser and different things that we're focusing, homework help as well as targeted intervention, but we can definitely provide a board update on our elementary data.
okay. And then our after-school programs, you said that 3 times a week they're getting academic support. Is that all just on the computer doing those programs, or is there other supports as well? I'm just trying to figure it out.
Sure. And so I'm looking over at Dr. Lopez because I don't want to speak for him and his programs, but I do know that students do receive academic support in the expanded learning program by his child care teachers that are present, and that's just in-person support with homework. But additionally, they're now being supplemented with these programs so that they can build their facts outside of the school day, where students might normally be practicing this at home with their parents. While we have our students in our expanded learning programs, we can provide them that support and access to technology.
And it is it's small group instruction with the teachers, outside of the kids that are there for after school activities. The intervention programs are small group instruction.
Of course.
I'm looking forward to what this is going to look like in the future as we build these math facts. I had a one daughter that went to Kumon on a regular basis to build those facts up. It was just more challenging for her. She needed the constant repetition. And to see where the elementary students are going to go through middle school, and as we get up into the algebra 1A and 1B, and how to combine those, and what the preparation that we're doing now is going to look like when they hit those classes. I'm really interested to see, and I hope that we'll be able to look at the data and compare it to where kids are now and what will happen in a few years, and be able to adjust accordingly. But thanks for the presentation. It's very good.
Well, I think the thing that this is going to also be easily identifiable as we see our test scores come back throughout the year. Last year we had, I think it was 46% proficiency in math. So, and with math facts being the basis of what we're doing with the interventions, that's going to reflect hopefully in a big way there. And then with homework help and grades, like this is great. And what kind of snacks?
Oh, a wide variety.
Okay,
right
good.
now it's Scooby snacks, and the first time around it was a goldfish.
Oh,
but a
man.
variety of dry snacks for students. Okay.
Excellent. That sounds great. Look forward to seeing how it improves. Okay, that brings us to our second portion of 15.2, which is high school graduation requirements. Dr. Young, if you would.
Sure. Thank you, President Youngblood. At this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Will Gray, our Executive Director of Secondary Education, to the lectern to provide a brief presentation on the upcoming proposed changes to the high school graduation requirements as they relate to our current semester-long courses, as well as our ongoing conversations about math.
Thank you, Dr. Young. Good evening, President Youngblood, trustees, Superintendent Dr. Chernus, and Executive Cabinet members. As introduced, I'm going to be giving you an update on our ongoing and planned work regarding our high school graduation requirements. Due to the 24-25 calendar change, there is a need to reevaluate the pacing guides for our semester-long courses. So on that screen there, we have our semester courses that are part of our high school graduation requirements: health, college and career readiness seminar, government, economics, AP microeconomics, AP macroeconomics, and AP government. And we also have 4 elective semester courses that aren't listed because they simply fall into the elective category of sociology, psychology, business law, and marketing. We are in the process of forming task forces to explore the conversion of the semester-long courses into combined year-long courses for the 24-25 school year, pairing government and economics, health and college and career readiness, and then the aforementioned electives of psychology and sociology and marketing business law, which naturally follow each other in the master schedule calendar. High school principals are beginning to discuss the impact of this change with their affected teachers, and the TOSA teams that work upstairs are currently planning out those task forces. The other part we're looking at is mathematics, just like with the intervention program. The Educational Services team has conducted a combination data dive and fact-finding exploration regarding our graduation requirements for math. Currently, our requirement is that students need to earn 20 math credits, which is lower than some area districts and the UC-CSU A through G requirements of 30 credits. You may recall that a board presentation was made on March 14th regarding this math graduation requirement. For the class of 2022, shown on the screen, our internal data indicate that approximately 85% of seniors graduated from PYL-USD having earned 30 or more math credits. This is likely due to the hard work of the guidance counselors encouraging students to progress beyond minimum requirements and a general culture of seeking academic excellence that is currently at our high schools. Following last spring's board conversations, we examined the academic histories of the remaining 15% of students seen on the bottom 2 rows of that chart that was added. Of those students, about 2/3 attempted to earn 3 years of math credits, but did not pass all attempted semesters, which leaves a total of 5.67% of that graduating class that attempted fewer than 3 years of math courses and stopped. So, the 185 graduates that you see on the screen that attempted to earn 30 credits would have been harmed by an additional year of math requirement absent any additional support, which is starting this year that you just heard about. It is unknown if the 111 students who did not attempt to earn that many credits would have passed, so they would have also potentially been negatively impacted by an additional year of math requirements without a revised focus on math support. Furthermore, we conducted a series of fact-finding conversations with local and similar school districts to get context for their math results. Through that process, we learned that our 85% completion percentage is in line with the area districts that have informally shared their 3 years of math completion rate with us. When these completion rates are compared against the CASP summative math data, in terms of students mastering the standards, there does not seem to be a correlation between the years of math required and student achievement. The chart on your screen shows an area district comparison containing the number of years of math required in column 2, their self-reported percentage of students who completed 3 years of math and or 30 credits, depending on how you measure it, along with their 2022 graduation rate and their 2022 CASP met or exceeded percentages for math. So, therefore, we arrived at the conclusion that our current math graduation requirement is sufficient and that our focus should remain on getting students algebra ready by 9th grade so that they can be set up for success in high school and beyond. As such, we are going to be examining and improving our middle school math practices and targeted interventions during and outside of the school day to ensure that as many students enter high school algebra ready as possible. The intent is that fewer and fewer students will be recommended to the course sequence that starts with Algebra 1A and 1B in freshman and sophomore years, so that more students can access Algebra 2 by their junior year and lead to more successful post-high school careers. The existing math task force and site administrators are examining what our math pathway can look like in light of the new mathematics framework that was recently passed and our upcoming mathematics curriculum adoption that will occur in future years as new curricular choices are published. This includes an analysis of our acceleration and support pathways provided to students. So, for the time being, the combination of these efforts will be our focus in Ed Services for Mathematics in lieu of increasing the math requirement. Bringing it back to our work during this school year, the task forces examining the aforementioned new one-year courses will start meeting in the coming weeks, again, led by our TOSAs. The Curriculum Council process will be used to approve any new year-long courses that emerge from this work for your consideration in the spring. And we look forward to your discussion this evening and anticipate bringing forward the revised board policy regarding graduation requirements in January for a first reading. Thank you for your time, and I'd like to invite any questions or feedback.
Sounds good to me.
While I appreciate that you are encouraging us not to vote for a third year of math, I encourage us to do that. We're already at 85% that are there. Comparing it to the other districts, if we increase to the third year of math, we're not going to be, we'll be able to use the targeted interventions for that last 15%. We're already at that same threshold that other districts are at. Also, the third year of math, having a third year of math and for adults, they have a better percentage of understanding when it comes to financial literacy, which was really the reason why I brought the whole idea forward. It's about making adults successful so that they can understand their own personal finances, and the foundation math that they get in the 3 years of high school helps build that. I do like the idea of combining Algebra 1A and 1B and looking at that as one class in the future and building from there. I don't think that that next year we should consider a third year of math, but I think that because we could take time, especially with the framework coming up, but I still think we should consider it, especially when we're looking at computer science and bringing computer science strands in. Computer science can function as a math class. It can also function as a language. So I think we are selling ourselves short by not adding the third year of math and supporting the rest of those students that wouldn't necessarily meet that requirement.
I agree. I really think that we should look at this third year of math and how to implement it, and dive more into why this 185 students in 2022 did not achieve. Like, did they, what was the reason? What were the barriers that prevented them from completing that third year successfully? And maybe it's just that they don't have the targeted supports. Maybe they're like, oh, I can do other things and it's not required. Maybe they had a change in their plan. I don't know, but I think that's something that we should look at to make sure that we're addressing those students. It's quite a few students who attempted that didn't complete, so I think it's noteworthy and something to continue to investigate and to pursue.
If I could add just one more thing, I think that we need to talk to our community colleges and our universities. That math alignment is not flowing from high school into college, and they see gaps when students get there. So they're sent down to more remedial level math programs before they can get in to those math classes. So there's something missing from high school into college, and we need to also look at that and consider that.
Yeah, and that was the next point I was going to get to. So thank you. They're going into the community colleges or to colleges, and they can't offer anything below a 100 level course. And so math now just turned into a 9-unit course for them to get all the supports. And especially the community colleges are doing a really good job to support these students, but we need to be doing a good job to send them to be successful.
But I would be curious if that's a years of math or an intervention process. I don't know that a third year is going to fix that problem. However, the intervention process would be something that would address the information gap.
Yeah.
Right. The third year, and I mean, I'm just doing the math. Like, we're talking about 26% less graduates based on our data from last year, with kids not getting 30 credits.
Not necessarily.
I'm just saying that's the numbers.
Well,
so you assume. Well, hold on.
Okay.
So you would assume that that's probably not accurate, because if there were kids that had to take 3 years, they would probably do so. 26% is probably extreme, but you're looking at less than what was our 94% graduation rate. That's going to drop, at least initially. But I think the things that you're bringing up, which I think are accurate, we need to make sure that kids going to college and going into career readiness are prepared mathematically. I think the intervention is way more important than a third year of math, just based on what we're talking about. And seeing these numbers, that I think there's a lot to find out, but that's where I would lean. I would lean towards more intervention to get kids to have if they just do 2 years, have math at a level where they can complete things in the college world, and then they would be successful in the business world.
The interventions they're talking about are in the third year of math.
Yeah. And also,
no, I'm talking about the interventions that we just talked about previously in the previous presentation. Like all of these interventions throughout the district. I'm saying that is where I see more advantage for our students.
Well, we're definitely doing that right now. And as we build that into it, I want us to see looking into that third year math. It might not be next year, but it could be the following year out, as we're building that computer science and building our capacity and bringing those classes together and doing all these interventions ahead of before and building the capacity of our students when they get to high school. So we've got a couple of years. We're almost there anyway. We're comparatively to the other districts, we're doing what they're doing. UC and CSU requirements are 3 years. So I feel like we're doing a disservice for those students that go into career versus right into college. Business math and understanding of personal finance is even more critical for them, because they aren't going to have that on the back end.
But that third year doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be where they make their gains. That's my point is, if the interventions work, then instead of graduating with Algebra 1A, they're going to graduate with geometry.
Studies show that 3 years of math give you a better advantage, and you have better personal finances as an adult.
I don't disagree with math being important. However, requiring it for graduation may be a hindrance to more students than we realized based on these numbers. And however, all of the integration or the intervention that we talked about, I think is what the third year would accomplish in my mind. That's where when we talked about it originally, I was like, well, we need more math, absolutely. But if we can focus on interventions, maybe the third year isn't as critical as I had previously thought.
Something I just want to throw out there for consideration is when we talk about really targeting our focus on having students enter high school algebra ready and trying to transition kids out of Algebra 1A and 1B and eventually eliminating that course, that means that students who may have earned 20 credits in the past just by Algebra 1A and 1B, they're done at Algebra 1. We're trying to have all students enter in Algebra 1, which would mean that they would need to move beyond that. So when we say we're not trying to emphasize 3 years of math, but we're emphasizing algebra ready, we're going to be exposing more students to math by having a less Algebra 1A, 1B pathways available to students. More seniors will be exposed to math through high school. We currently have 905 high school students that are currently in Algebra 1A and 1B.
Okay.
I'm
I
on-
have a question that I've been patiently waiting for. Okay, out of these students that didn't complete or attempted the credit unions and credits but didn't complete them, how many of those were special education students? Because special education students are exempt. Isn't that correct? When I read the graduation requirements, I was reading the graduation requirements again today, and I'm just trying to understand, not that they're exempt, but that if it's into their IEP, then that would be adjusted.
We have the same expectations for all students. So no, they're not exempt.
Okay.
So that was my concern. What I was just going to say is my concern is if we throw a third year in of math for graduation, is that going to be discriminatory to our to some of our students? Because maybe this is those numbers.
If it is, then the rest of the districts are being discriminatory.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is why are we so focused on 3 years of math? The kids that need the 3 years to go into CSU and to go to the UCs, they understand that those are the requirements, and so they go and they take the 3 years of math. And so the 2 years of math that we have now, if you want to stop at 2 years, and explore something else, if that's not your forte and that's not your interest, I find it hard to say that taking Algebra 2 is going to help your finances. There's nothing about that in Algebra 2. I would say that I have probably never, maybe I've used algebra, and I did help with the geometry question last year. However, I have never used Algebra 2 and barely any geometry since I've left high school. And so, let's be real, we need to equip the kids, but, is this high-level math? The kids that need and want the high-level math, they're taking it. And so why are we forcing other kids who are that's just not them? Why are we forcing a third year of that?
What?
We're building all of this math and focusing on all of this math, and we bring up a third year math and it's shut down, and it's just odd.
Well, no, it's just
This is not it just doesn't work.
Well, the third year of
Well,
math
maybe the
doesn't
third
mean it's
year of
going to
math
be.
doesn't work.
It doesn't mean it's going to be advanced math. That's the
Yeah,
point.
exactly.
It might be. If
Business math or personal finance or
right. So then, what's why do we need to have a requirement? That's my only question.
Okay, I just recently toured a trade school that dealt with plumbing, HVAC, low voltage, and electrician school. And what they told me is that a lot of their students don't come with the math skills. So they're having to remediate them in math. So it's just not going to a university or college. This is just career.
So
And they use those skills in their classes. So, I'd hate to just end this, math discussion this way. I just feel like we are doing a disservice to our students. We're giving them interventions to increase their math abilities, and maybe it's a progression, and that this should be looked at.
we're happy to look at it. I've met with the department chairs and have this discussion with them. They don't feel strongly that a 3-year math requirement is necessary. I do like the idea of potentially looking at computer science as down the road as a graduation requirement. I was a math teacher myself. I'm in favor of trying to send less kids to this math A and then math B. So I do think that is if we can get more kids into a 1-year algebra, that's the focus. But ultimately, I think we need to rely on our experts. I think that's the way to go. Let's talk to our teachers about it, continue that discussion with our teachers and with our people that are studying it and looking at it. And as of now, this is the recommendation, but we're happy to continue to look at it. But based on the experts that we have here in the district, this is what we're finding.
Anything else? All right, good discussion. Excellent. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, our next portion includes board information. This section I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Dr. Chernus to give us heads up on.
So this is a discussion item. This is a non-binding item on school fees and donations. We've heard quite a bit from the board, and so this is more to get some direction from the board. Since I've been here, I've noticed a lot of sports programs are asking parents for quite a bit of money in donations. And so I think as a district, we need to look at ways to minimize the impact on our families. There's a lot of clubs and programs that are asking for hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands, to support whatever that program is. So that's one thing I've noticed. The other piece is related to school fees in general. What do we charge students for? What does ASB control versus not? For example, ticket sales. So for our big programs like football, for example, takes in quite a bit of money that goes to the ASB currently, whereas the school board can actually decide how to allocate that money or where it should go. There's quite a bit around school fees in general, how much money goes through ASB. I know Mr. Stein's looking at ASB and ways to make a more efficient system for cash collections and for just ASB in general at all of our sites. And he'll be coming, I believe, in this spring with some recommendations on ways to make the whole ASB process more efficient. But we have a lot of money going through ASB. We have a lot of requested donations we're asking parents for. So at this time, we want to hear from the board on specific areas that you would like us to examine further and to come back to the board. It may have to be a study session, frankly, because there's so much here. This is sort of an open-ended item that we'd like to get some feedback from you on.
Yes.
Absolutely. It seems like there's a lot of components to this. If we could have maybe a study session just so everybody's on the same page with that.
I think there's a lot to be said for how the money flows. And I think that's one of the things that I look at, and it's not clear. When summer fees, you're paying directly to the district, and then what does that go for? Does that go back to pay for coaches' stipends, I assume partially? Does that pay for any of the equipment that's used? And then during season, there's donations, but they're not technically required. However, they're presented that way. And then there's just a lot of things within all of those parts that I think need to be examined, and we need more clarity on how we can do that better. I think there's probably situations within band environments and anything else that's co-curricular where we can do something from a district level to help fund that, offset those fees, even if it's just efficiencies because we're losing percentages because we don't account for things correctly and stuff gets left places through whether it's ASB or through funds at the sites. I think we definitely need more information on that, and we need to streamline stuff and oversight. There's a lot of money that goes through from sports and arts in general, and then for just school supplies and fees, and that it's a public school district. Like parents shouldn't have to be paying as much as we have to pay for these kind of things. So
I'd like to make sure that what we're doing is equitable. So you look at a football team and the number of students that are on a team. If they were to get the ticket sales from that, how does that matriculate into cheerleading, band and color guard, because they're all there performing at the same time? If it is soccer versus football versus golf, what is the breakdown, and are we being equitable for each sport, for each school? What does that look like overall? Those are the details I would like to know. I also would like to know what is the impact on the facilities. Is everybody paying a fair share toward facilities that they're using, and including all of our outside organizations that are renting and using our facilities? How does that factor in as we look at sports and arts and all of those things? It's very complex, and it should be even. Just because you're at one school and a theater department where you you have a lot of ticket sales and you raise funds, at another one they might need the extra support. So how does all of that balance so that we're not creating some differences because of that, adjusting the whole flow of how things go? There has been some issue with ASB and the amount of money that they hold on a regular basis. I know that we've put in some things before where they have to identify, what if they have a significant chunk of money, what that's going to look like, where they're planning on spending that. They hold a big balance because there's a lot of things that go through. And the requirements for ASB when they're doing all of the school events and the dances and things like that. It's super complex, and it's hard for me to even begin to ask more of the right questions before having that baseline information on what it looks like school to school, sport to sport. It actually even leads me to our report on classified and certificated staff, where you look at all of the different schools and the different booster sponsored versus district sponsored, and it's kind of all over the place with it all mixed together. So it's really hard without cutting and pasting and figuring it out on your own to figure out what that looks like. So a breakdown by school, by sport would be really helpful for me to figure out what my next step would be.
I think for me, the big one was the ticket sales. With you have football, and you have like wrestling, and you have basketball, and nobody's keeping their ticket sales, and it's going straight into ASB. And then with the parking, like we're charging our students $25 park in the parking lot, where they go to school. And I mean, I never paid for a parking spot in high school.
I don't recall writing a check for parking.
There's parking. It's $25 at Esperanza. I think it's $20 at Yorba Linda. I haven't had to buy that spot. I have 2 months till then. But, we're charging students to park. And then when we talk about, the ticket sales, and, football is, buying their own uniforms. So there's 100 and something of these players, and the uniforms are expensive. And so that's coming from the boosters. And I know the district is paying, say, for, the helmets and the pads. But then, where does the rest of that come? And then you have the coaches' stipends. And then I wasn't able to make the booster meeting, I think, last week. But then some people were reporting back to me that, they've said that, and and I wanted to know if this was true, and I said I would ask tonight. They said that you can't have casino night any longer as a fundraiser, and then like no Super Bowl squares. And so people were calling me and asking how are we supposed to raise any money. So I was just wondering if that was actually a true thing. But you know, like I have seen the inequity of there's a homecoming dance that's $50 or $60 at one school, and then there's 25 or 30 at another school, but it's all being done in the gym. And so like, what are the parents paying for, and like why are there these big you know, different price points? But I guess really what the concern is also is the fields. And I know that Dr. Chernus has said that they are working hard with facilities to, you know, better these fields. But I've sat on some baseball boosters where we have to laser level a field, and it's tens of thousands of dollars to do it, and it's coming from the boosters. But then yet we've had people out there using the field, outside users. They're paying for that field, they're using that field, and the money's coming into the district. And then so I've said, well, why can't the money come, you know, to at least help some of the fields, or like a certain portion of it, you know, because we have Friday Night Lights at Esperanza. They're all over the girls the girls softball field, and they're also on the soccer fields. And the softball field and the soccer coaches are having to pay extra money from their funds to maintain it, but yet we're allowing these outside users on these fields, and they come and demolish it, and then we're making the boosters, which are the parents, you know, have to fund it and then have to go and fix it. And so I just see a lot of that stuff going on, as you know, and it's high school to high school to high school, you know, like somebody mentioned too, some of our middle schools, you know, the track, like those get used and then they get destroyed. And so like, who is supposed to pay for that? Well, the middle school doesn't have any boosters and the, you know, the parent boosters, and they're not, but when you come to the high schools, it's the parents that are having to pay. And so that's just been really, you know, an issue. And then, you know, sometimes too, like all of this, you know, these dance tickets and, you know, your ASB cards at the beginning of the school year and all this stuff that we're putting all this money into, like sometimes a group will say, well, I want to use this. And they get told, well, no, you can't use that. That belongs to ASB, you know, for like one of their functions. And so like, are we a group here and like everybody's paying into it? And is there ownership of these items that is like, should be a pot? And so I do agree completely with you about the equitable, because how do you just give the football team the football sale? You can't do it because the band's out there, cheer is out there, there's a lot of things. But I think that we need to look at that and try to start giving our programs back more money so they can be more successful if they need to hire more coaches, say, for something. But I mean, cheer is like thousands and thousands of dollars. And so, you know, if we can help give them some of the money, and I think it's just more of accountability. I think that's what Todd has been saying. Parents and families, they want accountability as to like where their money is going. And it's just really, I feel like, just kind of out of control. And so we as a district, I hope, can kind of like get in there and, you know, divide things up equitably for people so everybody can have a great high school experience. But not only just at one high school, but at all the high schools. You know, like earlier in the presentation, I mean, obviously I'm by pools a lot. And Yorba Linda, I think in Valencia, they don't have like a shaded structure, whereas Esperanza and El Dorado do. So, you know, things like that where, you know, you go to certain things and, you know, like you have these makeshift easy ups if it, you know, is blowing over on people. Like just things like that I think can be looked at as we like go forward with this newfound, you know, this new money that we have towards things. But I just think like a deep dive, and I think we owe it to our communities to have this deep dive into all of this stuff. And it's nothing against ASB. We're not sitting here going, gosh darn you. We're not saying that, but, and I know that you probably have a perspective on that. But, you know, from like the parents and well, he's on ASB. So, so I, you know, but from like my standpoint, I go, okay, like, you know, the ticket sales, could the ticket sales help here? And what are these ticket sales going to? Like, what is this money being used towards? You know, and should we be using it like more efficiently? So that's where I would love the deep dive, just so everybody knows what's going on, where's the money going, and that it's going towards all of our student population.
It's one thing, just not in defense of ASB, but one thing I do know about the ticket sales is part of that goes to offset ref fees. So there are fees that then would have to go from ASB to
Yes.
the athletics department or whatever related to that. And then there's also things where you have to look at, I mean, cheerleading I know is extremely expensive. There's a lot of things that go into that, and it's a much fewer students. So I don't know how, like,
Yeah.
now part of that may be elective, like they don't have to spend as much money. So how do we gauge that? Like, there's a
That's
lot.
really hard to
Yeah,
trim,
that's-
because I
that-
had a
that
daughter
gets
in
tough.
cheer, and it's very expensive, but you don't use uniforms over and over again like you do like band, for example.
Yeah.
And each year it's kind of a different design, and cheerleading is, clothes are expensive, and if we gave them like a threshold of dollar amount, I don't know what they would find as far as uniforms. So it becomes very complex in so many
Yeah.
ways.
Well, it's more of like how much support, because they can spend over what they're allotted. That's
Mhm.
fine. But how do we find where that line is?
And is it a student per student,
Yeah,
or is it a
right.
sport by sport,
So
or
what do
what
you
is
think?
that? I mean, it's there are
Lot
no
of
ticket sales for cheerleading.
I know for at least for dances, because I planned prom last year, we have this allocated budget, and then we designate the ticket price based on that budget, and we factor in like student attendance, and we don't actually make that much money from dances. We mostly just try to like reclaim the amount of money we spent on the dance. So at least for ticket prices, there's not a lot of movement we can do with that. Come from someone that planned a dance. And I know that not every homecoming and like all these dances are in the same spot. Some, like Valencia, I think, I might be wrong, has a outside venue that they do homecoming, versus Yorba Linda where we do it in the quad. So I know the budgets differ depending on venue and then the DJ and like decorations and stuff, because at least we want to have dances a memorable experience and to get students to show up. So we need a certain amount of funds to do so in order to make the money back. So that's at least for dances.
Makes sense.
Yeah, makes.
We totally get that. And I've asked other like schools and stuff, not other districts, I should say. And like a lot of them they'll take the money from their ticket sales and they'll pay the officials and they'll pay this and they'll pay that. But then like the money can get allocated back into like, sports or wherever it is. So
Okay.
there are ways to do it.
Okay, I think maybe a good spot to start is last year we passed a board policy on connective activities, I believe it was called. School connective activities, and it listed kind of like a protocol. And one of the things that is in there is like a budget for all the boosters. So to be a booster on one of our campuses, they're supposed to provide a budget. A good place just to compile all those budgets and kind of see where we're at. One of the things that is, I don't know, worrisome to me, or that I look at, is we approve, extended field trips. And some of these field trips are thousands of dollars. So I kind of would like to look, are we doing these annually? Is it, every other year? How can we take some of that pressure off of our parents? Are they going every year? Or is there maybe a more cost-effective tournament? Sometimes I look at these tournaments and they're gone for like 5 days and they're flying, but they're really, when you look at it, they're playing 3 games. So is that cost-effective, or is that something that should be looked at? Are we, getting the most dollars for what we're providing? And I just think that's a good place to start, but I definitely think we should look at it. I was talking to not a principal, but assistant principal, and they were mentioning to me at their school site, they're happy if 50% of the students can pay the fees. And we need to be, so that school, they're already paying for 50% of their students to participate in their activities. Someone is coming up with those dollars somehow. whether it's the booster fundraising extra for those students, or getting the kids the equipment somehow through other funds. So I think that this really needs to be looked at and gone through, and I think, our work on, the board policy was a start, but it's time to dive back into this and come up and make sure that, where we are and what we can fix and how we can help support our students, so that all students can participate in these activities, in an economical way without parents taking out second mortgage.
Or saying they don't,
Or
yeah,
saying
or
they
saying
ca-
they can't do it.
Or saying they can't participate.
I would like to add just one more thing, as we're getting towards some CIF competitions and things like that. I think it's important that we as a district make sure that the sports that are qualifying and making it to CIF, that's not a cost barrier for the students that are on those teams.
I don't think there's no extra cost for CIF to the players, or
Well, it could be like transportation or
Or
things like
traveling,
that.
if they
Travel,
have-
whatever.
Like
But like-
cross country, they have to go up to Clovis, so they're spending
So
a
if they
night.
qualify for CIF, we need to make sure that they're able to attend.
are those paid out of the boosters now, or?
I have no idea.
Yeah, okay, that's something to look at. I also am not interested in saying, you cannot spend so much money, but requiring it from parents is where I think we need to focus. Cause I think we can get really in the weeds and saying, well, you can't spend more than X amount of dollars. Well, but if they have a good fundraising campaign and they have a sponsor from a local business or something like that, I don't think we should restrict what they're allowed to spend. But looking into something and saying, let's have a threshold for what parents are required to. Now, not required, it's a donation. But the other thing that I mentioned in our, I think it was in our LCAP meeting, was a program that I heard another district, I forget which district it was, but I have a presentation on it, an ASB for All program, where the district funds ASB for all students across the district. So ASB gets funded completely, and then the money that would have gone to ASB from the athletics and other co-curriculars goes directly to athletics. So I don't know how that works. I just know that that's something we should look into as well. And maybe marrying these two things, and I think there's lots of creative solutions I think we can come up with
I think
to fix this.
Mr. Stein has a lot on his plate. I remember going through this with our facilities and doing an evaluation. We looked at other districts and what they charge, and for each so it's very complex. So I would recommend looking at other districts too and seeing what they do and if they've got some knowledge that we could glean. But I'm sure it's going to take a little time to get through this. So I appreciate you looking into it and spending the time on it, and I hope to hear back in the next few months how it's going. Well, good luck.
I think they're all going on vacation next week.
Somebody's going
That's
on
why.
vacation on Thursday.
Okay, everything good?
Funny.
Any more questions? All right, excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, that's going to move us into our consent calendar. Actions proposed for the consent calendar items are consistent with approved practices of the district and are deemed routine in nature. The trustees receive board agenda backup information in advance of the scheduled meeting and are prepared to vote with the knowledge on the block vote items. Are there any items to be pulled? You got to be kidding me.
Nope.
All right.
What?
Mark
It's a
this date
record.
in history.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Okay.
I'm not doing it.
So I'll need a motion.
I'll make the motion that we accept the consent calendar.
I will second that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a motion by Ms. Buck, seconded by Ms. Blades. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. And an aye from our student board member. The vote carries 5-0. Thank you. Next, it brings us into our superintendent's report. Dr. Chernus?
Okay. Good evening again, President Youngblood, members of the school board. I thoroughly enjoyed attending Read for the Record at Valdez Middle School Academy on October 26th. each year, the Valdez Eagles collaborate with young students from Melrose and Rio Vista elementary schools to celebrate reading together as part of the annual worldwide event spearheaded by Jumpstart, a national early education organization. The goal of Jumpstart's Read for the Record is to bring millions of young children together with valued grown-ups in their lives to read the same book on the same day in communities all around the world. Carrie Buck joined me there. It was an awesome event. This year, the 8th grade students paired up with their 1st grade buddies. And we're excited to read With Lots of Love by author Jenny Torres Sanchez, illustrated by Andre Ciolin. Before the day was over, our students from Melrose and Rio Vista received their own copy of the book to take home, share, and read with their loved ones. And it was just an awesome event. I also had the pleasure of attending the high school showcase at Valencia High School on November 8th. And this was a standing room only event in the auditorium, and then broke out into various classrooms around the campus. Prospective students and families from inside and outside of the district visited the campus to learn more about the high school experience. It was really cool. I met one student from Travis who was in 7th grade. He was doing his advanced scouting. He brought his mom. He's going to all the high schools, taking notes. It was really cool to see. So it's a great tradition here in our district. Next up, we have Yorba Linda Mustangs. They'll welcome students and families tomorrow, November 15th, on their campus. And then we have El Dorado and Esperanza after Thanksgiving recess on November 29th and December 6th, respectively. So we do encourage students, prospective students and families in 7th and 8th grade to attend these events and just learn about what the schools are all about. Lastly, as Thanksgiving approaches, I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to each and every member of our incredible school district. I'm truly grateful for the hard work of our students in all aspects of their education, the dedication of our staff as we educate and support our kids, and really the ongoing support of our families are just outstanding. So from my family to yours, we wish you a joyous Thanksgiving break. And I forgot to mention the Veterans Day ceremony at El Dorado was special for me. My dad is an 80-year-old Vietnam vet. It took me about 20 minutes to walk him through over the phone how to get onto the YouTube Live to watch the ceremony. But I got him on, and my goal is to bring him next year to the event. It was very meaningful. So I wanted to thank all the folks at El Dorado for and all of our veterans out there for all you do for our country. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Chernis. Okay, we'll go ahead and do our board report.
Sure.
Ms. Buck, if you would.
Thank you. Well, I love the fact that they put the veterans ceremony online so that we can tune in when we can't be there. That was very helpful. Love that. Well, I'll just have a few things to report out. Attended the Heritage Days parade with Mrs. Anderson and Dr. Isaiah Gates, who isn't here tonight. But we had a great time, as usual, riding along in the bus down the parade route. Much shorter this year, but it was really fun. It wasn't as hot as previous years, where we've had some kids go down. The shortened length of the parade, I think, also benefits that too. But it was a really fun day and nice to see everybody out there. I attended the band pageant, which was phenomenal, as usual. Having all of our middle school and high school students out there that are in band and color guard, and get to middle schools get to see the high schools and what they're doing, really encourages that drive to want to continue in band and color guard. And the field shows were just amazing, and a shout out to El Dorado. I think it was the best band pageant performance that I've seen in a long time from any school. They really did a great job. So everybody else did a great job too. I was just kind of a little impressed by El Dorado this year. I attended the elementary and special ed advisory committee meetings that Dr. Chernus is leading, and kind of listened along to what the conversation was and the questions that the parents had. And I'm looking forward to attending more of those in the future. It's also nice that it's on Zoom. You can just pop in and listen. I have been attending a few football games. Yorba Linda High School is on their way to CIF championship, so good luck to them. Read for the Record was mentioned. It's so great to see now that it's been going on for so long. The 8th grade students, when they're talking to their 1st grade buddies, they remember being that first grade showing up on campus. So it's really nice to see now that we've been doing it for so long that whole cycle is in place. I got the opportunity to go on an ROP tour of our education pathway. It's called a learning walk. We spent the day going to Valencia High School and meeting the teacher and talking to the students there, and then following that up at Ruby Drive, watching the high school students in action with the elementary school students. And we did the same thing over at Esperanza. So we went to their teacher pathway class, and then went and saw the kids at Glenview in action doing a little of that work, including the library, which I hadn't seen before. We had some high school students that were working in the library. I attended the Teacher of the Year dinner last week, which was great, at the Disneyland Hotel, and got to celebrate 2 of our Teachers of the Year. Do you have the names right now? Mm-hmm. Mr. Plunkett, I was able to sit at his table, and I don't want to mess up the last name.
It's Wovanovich.
Oh, Wanarovich. Yes, Mrs. Wanarovich. So we were, Mrs. Anderson and I were able to be there, and Dr. Young and Dr. Gates were there as well, and got to celebrate them at a great evening at the Disneyland Hotel to celebrate all of the Teachers of the Year throughout Orange County. I found out last week that I have been selected again for the next term on the Child Nutrition Advisory Council from the state superintendent. So I'll be on again for another 2 years through December 2025, working with supporting kids in nutrition. And then lastly, I'm looking forward to the CSBA annual conference coming up at the right after Thanksgiving, and going to San Francisco and meeting with other colleagues, and going to the workshops they have, and I'll bring back any great information that I have that they provide. So that's it for me. Everybody have a great Thanksgiving week off, and from my family to yours too, have a great Thanksgiving.
Okay. I attended, as Mrs. Buck said, the Heritage Day, and I wanted just to have a shout out to Mr. Selby. He was our bus driver, and he is well known in our district because he was definitely getting shout outs from students. And it was nice to see that relationship. I attended flag football game for the VHS girls and watched them both JV and varsity win. I attended a choir concert for Kramer and Valencia High School, which was really good, and I'm excited to go to their Christmas concert. It's on my calendar. Mrs. Buchan was also here, but the Women of Industry meeting, and I just really liked hearing the professionals there share their knowledge and experience with our students, and a big thank you to students, staff, and the Reach Foundation for making this event possible for our students, to get them a little bit more career readiness. I attended an occupational school. It's called ABC School, and it was really great. I talked a little bit about it, about the services they have, like plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and low voltage. And it's a really interesting school because all their students are paid to work. They all are working in their fields while they're getting their education. And they also receive health insurance benefits through the school. And the schooling is free for those that attend. So it's a great opportunity.
It's over on La Palma. It's called Association of of Builders and Contractors. When I worked at the shelter, we used to send some of our clients over there to give them some job skills. It's really great.
It's really great, and I reached out to Dr. Gray about that. So we're going to see how we can partner and look into opportunities for our students. I attended the District English Learner Advisory Committee with representatives from all the schools and parents of English learners, and I learned more about our 2,000 English language learners in our district, and they talked about reclassification and the district master plan, which I'm excited to see. They're in the it's built, and now they're getting feedback from families, and so I'm excited to see what the final draft looks like. And also, they had free English classes offered at Topaz daily from 8 to 11. So if that's a need, there's opportunities there. And I just really liked all the positive interactions from the district with these families and helping to help them. I went to the Second Harvest Food Bank at Melrose and at Topaz. 106 families were served at Melrose Elementary the day I went, and 60 families were served at Topaz. And I'm just so grateful for the volunteers at the Second Harvest for making this possible. I went to the first one, and they're like, come to Topaz and work. So I showed up to Topaz with my tennis shoes and my apron, and passed out eggs and tofu. And it was just a really nice experience interacting with those families and seeing online how these volunteers serve our things. I also attended the band pageant. Just thought it was amazing, and I'm always kind of blown away every year. And I think the band pageant is kind of what makes our district special. And I just want to do a shout out to all of our music teachers, support staff, parents, bus drivers for making this possible. It wouldn't be possible without all those people helping. I did a tour and a visit at the Nurses Hub at Kramer Middle School, and it was a great time to listen to our nurses and learn all that they're doing to support our students throughout the district, and kind of got a look at kind of their training protocols for health clerks, aides, and office staff, and teachers, and even bus drivers get trained. And just listening to them talk, it just sounded a little overwhelming to me. But I'm grateful that we have nurses that are dedicated to our students to make sure that these things are all possible. I attended 3 assemblies for the student fentanyl training, one at El Dorado, Yorba Linda High School, and Esperanza High School. And I thought that these presentations were very informative, and I watched the students really engaged. I saw a lot of head shaking, listening, good questions answered, and I really enjoyed and appreciate our partners in law enforcement to provide these trainings. As was mentioned, I went to the Teacher of the Year. I won't repeat that, but congratulations to Eric and Michelle on their well-deserved recognition. I attended Anaheim City Council meeting where Valerie Hubbard, who was recognized tonight, was also recognized through the City of Anaheim for her life-saving actions, and that was really great. And I attended the showcase, as Dr. Chernus mentioned, and it was great to be there. And my favorite part of the evening was really hearing from the current students sharing their experiences in the International Baccalaureate program, the Cambridge Advanced International Certificate, and the ValTech program. And listening to all the opportunities and experiences these students have done in the last 4 years and participated is truly phenomenal. And we definitely have some high achieving students there at Valencia, and I'm grateful for all the staff that provide these programs to our students, and it really speaks volumes to their commitment to education. I attended the Placentia City Veterans Day program on Saturday at Placentia City Hall, and two of our students, J.G. Cavalucci and Avery Ansbury from El Dorado, shared their thoughts on Veterans Day and their family connections. So they did an amazing job. We were well represented by these two students. And then also Yorba Linda Middle School and Tuffrey Middle School had a combined choir under the direction of Mr. Michael Fenton, and the students sounded amazing, and I'm just so grateful for them and in their performances, because they were truly outstanding. And that's about what I've been up to that I can remember. That's all. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
All right. I was able to attend the band pageant as well, which is always neat because I remember participating in the band pageant when I was at Yorba Linda Middle School. And it's just a great opportunity for the junior high band to see what it's like to be with, especially with the El Dorado Marching Band has always been phenomenal. And you get to see that up close, and you're like, oh, I could be a part of that. Yeah. Very cool. And I just love the integration that brings the middle school programs with the high school programs, and then just showcases what our kids can do. It's so great. Then also attended the State of the City for Yorba Linda event. I got to hear about what's happening at the City of Yorba Linda, connection with all the businesses and things there. And I know we did an event last year with the principals in this room with the principal for a day, right? Yeah, and that just integrating what's happening in the city and with businesses and all of our CTE pathways. I think doing as much as we can to integrate and overlap that is great for all of our students and for everybody involved. Also was, let's see, what was the other thing besides before I get into all the sports? That might have been, yeah, that was it. Been attending a lot of sporting events. As it was mentioned, the Esperanza girls flag football, 25-0, second in the nation. It was a grueling match between Orange Lutheran for an overtime win in the Chargers championship football game, which okay, all right. So my daughter caught the tying touchdown, and then my other daughter caught the winning extra point. Phenomenal. And then they got invited to go to just the opportunities that come from this stuff. The entire team got invited to go to the Chargers game this Sunday and run the team out of the tunnel, completely paid for by the Chargers, which was phenomenal. And the things that these kids get opportunities to when they participate in these co-curricular activities is something that can potentially be life-changing. The things that they see, that they get to interact with. Two of our players from the flag football team got invited to the U.S. Olympic Training Center this last weekend. My daughter was one of them. And it's just neat to see what happens when kids are in an environment that they can thrive, because that's what they've been gifted with. So I just think the things that are happening in this district are great. I appreciate all the things happening with the math readiness and all the integrations that we have there. Things are happening, and Thanksgiving's coming, but you know what that means? That means Christmas is on its way. Mm-hmm. So I'll be the first one to say Merry Christmas, everyone.
Well, I did start watching Hallmark Christmas movies like a month ago. They're my favorite. I was watching them in the summertime, I'm not going to lie. So I'm glad that everyone, when they come up here, they remind me of where I've been, because I haven't known what day of the week it is for probably 6 weeks. But I do know it's Tuesday. I know I'm in a board meeting, so that's good. I did attend the State of the City with Dr. Chernus and Todd and Dr. Stein, or I'm sorry, Mr. Stein. And so we had a good time. We had a lot of good people at our table. It was good to see everybody. It was the State of the City for Yorba Linda, so it was Gene Hernandez who gave the invocation tonight, which we really appreciate him being here. He did a great job, and his famous, or his infamous mustache, I think, that was kind of the theme. So everything had this mustache, like little sticks, in all of the things. It was very Gene. I was able to, then the next day I went to the California Association of Black School Educators. I went with Dr. Gates. We were there for a couple days for that conference, which is always very good and informative. And you make a lot of friends and are able to have a lot of good discussions with people. And so that was a really good time. It was really nice, really good weather. I think it was hotter here and it was cooler there, and I was just so happy. Like I think it was 80 something here, and I think it was 74 there, and I came home and I had a sweatshirt on and I was, peeling off in the driveway. So it was just a nice, cool weekend.
Can I ask, would you mind if they have some workshops or things that they've done that you could share information? I would love to hear more about some of the best practices they know.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I also too, I met with a company that's actually local. They saw all the fentanyl training that we're doing with our local law enforcement. And so I met with them, and they have a lot of extra stuff that they can do, as well as counseling, and they really take it to the next step. And so I did bring them in, just to talk to Dr. Chernus to see if there would ever be a place for them in our district. But the amount of counseling that they do, and it's kind of like, it's not like obviously like what law enforcement is doing in our schools and their presentations, it is extremely valuable for our students. But like a program like this, they actually they come on board, and there's a lot of counseling available. They're a nonprofit, and so they would kind of stick around and stay in and, give the kids or the families who are dealing with any type of drug addiction, to give that extra support. And so that might be something that's worth looking into, maybe not, but just to give our local community, the people who are involved and this is their passion, just to give them the opportunity to have a voice and to help on their community, I think was important. I've had some people come up and ask about, so I have had a lot of people talk to us or email and then just ask certain questions about the charter, the district charter that's on for December. And one of the things that they have been talking about is the honors program. That's one of their concerns. And so I did do kind of some digging around, and it's clear now that our honor system in middle school is not the same across the board. It appears that Tuffrey and BYMS have honors across the board at their schools, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but Yorba Linda Middle School, they have honors English language arts and history, but there's no honors in science. And Travis Ranch Middle School has language arts honors and mixed levels in one classroom of science, but there's no honors in history. And so after reading the charter petition for Bernardo, again, it's clear that the charter offers an honor program that students can earn honors credit in core courses. And so I know it's a different way of doing things, and I know it's kind of it's just different with a different process, but I think because our district is doing stuff differently all over the place, and there's just all these different opportunities, I've just kind of told the parents, if this charter is approved and this is, something that we need to look into, this is a new and it's an innovative way of, and it might be absolutely fabulous. And so, just to kind of give it the chance, because I was a little bit surprised that our honors classes aren't the same across the board at all of our middle schools, that there's not the same opportunity. So maybe we could just look at this as this is just a new and innovative opportunity that's maybe different from the other schools. I also have been talking to some parents who have asked that we consider having a parental notification superintendent advisory committee. And so that was interesting to me. And I was going to ask the superintendent if that would be something possibly to be considered. Because I think parents maybe want to have, I don't even necessarily know if it would be a notification, parental notification, but maybe just parental, parents who are concerned, and maybe just want to talk about things that are going on in the classroom. But that was a different kind of an ask, and so I'm just going to bring it up to you to see if that's something that we can do. And then another thing, the last thing I was going to hit on, I've been asked by some families and some people in the community if we were going to try to implement the flag policies that some of the other districts around us have been implementing. And, my response has been, I don't know if we necessarily need something like that, but I also think that us as a district, we need to start, over the last week or two, I would say that the area of viewpoint discrimination has come across. And what they've been saying is that if there is a certain flag hanging in the classroom, then it's the responsibility of that person to also have the other flag hanging. I'm not going to start talking about all kinds of flags. And so they said that you can't, only push one flag, that you have to push the, you know, the secondary flag or whatever the opposite flag would be as well. And so I think that's actually being litigated in several states, that both viewpoints weren't given to the students. And so I thought that was very interesting. And so I'm not necessarily sure if we need these type of flag policies, if we have the opportunities, if a teacher wants to fly one flag, that there's the opportunity to fly the other flag and to have all viewpoints, you know, shared and discussed. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. And it made sense to me. And I read the lawsuit, and there was a lot of valid points. So that's kind of my answer that I've been giving to people, is sometimes you don't necessarily need a new policy. You can just already follow the existing law. Thanksgiving's coming up, and I went for a run today. And I'm going to run every single day so I can have some pie and mashed potatoes and eat some carbs next week. So I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving, and looking forward to Christmas and what that brings. And since Todd is going to probably beat me to Merry Christmas, I'm just going to accept that. But just stay safe, and hopefully you guys can spend time with family and friends, and we will see you back here in December.
Wow. Okay, so you know, one of the things I absolutely enjoy about this team is it seems like they went to everything that was even offered in our district and outside of the district, and I so appreciate that. I would love to get out to some of these events, especially with our upcoming CIF athletes. It seems like we've got them spread all over the place. Anybody traveling down to, where is that, Long Beach? We got one of the football teams going to there you go. That should be fun. Newport Harbor, that's it. So, you know, one thing that I also had heard that all of our band that received honors. Is that correct? Excellent. Love that. So looking forward to hearing how that all turns out. I too will be hopefully going to a couple of those games. That would be really nice. But once again, as the rest of the team has mentioned, have a great Thanksgiving. I am not concerned with the calories, so I'll take yours, so I could, you know, have as much. Well. Okay, so other than that, that's my board report for tonight. Thank you again, team, for doing everything that you did with tonight's information. And that leads us to the last portion of our agenda tonight. I will need a motion.
So moved.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Second.
All right, Ms. Anderson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Including an aye from our student board. He actually made it to the end of it. That is awesome. Rare. So we will go ahead and adjourn. Our next meeting will be December 12th. We're going to go ahead and adjourn tonight's meeting at 8:30.